vibrant, outgoing woman starting the next chapter in her life.
She's just retired, and she was very much focused on the future. Diane was a person that everyone should meet in life. Positive, happy.
But her life is cut short in a night of immeasurable horror.
There was blood splatter everywhere.
I never saw so much trauma to one person's body.
It chills me to the bone.
Police have a complex scene and a long list of suspects.
There was over 100 male contacts in Diane's phone.
There was always drama with boyfriends.
He refused to give DNA. There was something out there that he was hiding. Every direction we followed, we ended up running into dead ends.
Just when police think they might never catch the killer,
Who could it be? Why is this so complicated?
the case takes a mind-blowing turn.
And I was like, what? Oh my God.
No one expected this case to break on something like this.
Union Township, New Jersey. A bustling East Coast community with a small-town feel.
Union Township's a mix of mostly suburban, but it's got its downtown area. It's peaceful, it's quaint, it's safe.
But all that changes on a cold November afternoon.
911, where is the emergency? I can't even think of the address right now. Okay, ma'am, listen to me. Take a deep breath. What's going on there? She's not answering. Can you tell me if she's breathing or not? No, she's not. Hurry, please. Please, hurry.
After receiving a call from the victim's parents, the Union police responded immediately to the home. The father was across the streets with the mom, and they were clearly in shock.
The couple tells police they found their daughter, Diane Zaleski, unresponsive inside.
When I got there, there was massive amounts of blood in the foyer. The walls were covered with blood spray. There was just blood everywhere.
We followed the blood trail into the basement and discovered the victim's body.
She had clearly been dragged to the basement.
You could see her at the bottom of the stairs. She was literally in a pool of blood. There were stab wounds all over her torso, her face, her neck.
There were defensive wounds on her arms and hands. We knew there was a struggle, no doubt. I never saw so much trauma to one person's body.
She was partially clothed. There was a pair of black underwear, literally right next to her head.
Had the victim been sexually assaulted as well? Investigators find more disturbing clues.
There were 2 empty containers of solvent by the woman.
It appeared that the body had been cleaned.
So this was an effort to obscure evidence.
The killer also tried to erase their tracks throughout the house.
The kitchen sink was full of soapy water, and inside was the remote controls, some cleaning brushes, and lots of various items that it appeared the suspect had touched.
Also, the garbage can was gone, which led us to believe that the killer got rid of DNA or blood evidence or fingerprints. The entire bathroom area was soaking wet. The shower head was not in its cradle. We thought the killer took a shower, so we pulled the drain to check for DNA.
The crime scene was, how I would describe it, Herculean.
Detectives can't find a murder weapon, but forensics discover what could be a crucial piece of evidence the killer failed to clean up.
There was a droplet of blood on the floor.
It appeared to be foreign to us. It was cast off and inconsistent with the victim's blood.
He had cut himself somehow in the course of the struggle, whether it be from a knife, from punching her.
We knew that the guy was trying to cover himself, but it was minute, and they found it. They saw that blood.
We immediately swabbed that piece of evidence and transported it to our DNA lab.
Detectives get more information from Diane's parents.
They had gone to the house because she was supposed to take a sister-in-law to a doctor's appointment that morning, and nobody could get in touch with her.
They entered her home and they discovered Diane's body.
Her parents were really suffering.
Diane was a born and bred Jersey girl, gregarious and adored by her friends.
Diane, she brought joy to a lot of people's lives. Very positive, happy, laughing, and dancing. Even though she wasn't married and she didn't have children, she was very much focused on her family. Her parents were a little bit older, so she was kind of watching over them. And I knew her brother because he had lived with her for a while.
After 17 years of working as a legal secretary, Diane was now taking time for herself.
Here's this young single woman in her own house, and she's just retired. When she was offered a certain buyout package, there was no hesitation. She was ready. She had worked long and hard in her life. Diane was social. She had her friends from work, and often they'd go to happy hours. Then she had her dance friends. She would go on dates. She would just say, you know, Joanne, in the end, I'm just looking for a guy who can carry in my packages. She still had hope that she was going to meet somebody to spend life with.
As investigators finish processing the crime scene, a theory evolves.
There were no forced entry marks that we could find in the house. He took the time trying to obscure everything. He tried to clean her body. All this took time.
In addition, there was a pot that appeared to have food in it. Maybe Diane had been cooking or had been eating when her killer entered her home, and there was a fork from that pot that we found in the kitchen sink full of cleaning fluid, which led us to believe the suspect had also taken time to eat.
I was involved with at least 150 homicides. I never saw anyone hang out in a house after a murder. I just never heard of it.
We felt it was someone Diane knew.
The killer was very comfortable in this house after the death of the victim.
Which led us down the boyfriend road, or someone who was dating her road.
But what was the killer's motive?
For any human being to do this to another human being is, I don't even have a word for it.
Police rule out robbery since nothing appears to be stolen, including Diane's wallet. And when investigators look through it, they find a clue.
We found a business card.
It belongs to someone named Mark. Who is this man? And could he know anything about Diane's brutal murder?
We found out from her family that he lived in the general area, and it was a bar just up the street from where Diane lived. And we found out that they had been there. So we think that's where she actually got his business card. And because she was out there, she was dating, we wanted to speak to everybody. Maybe he had some information. He came in, and I showed him a picture of her, and he flat out refused to say that he even knew her. He said he had no idea why the card was in her wallet. And then he said, she's not the target I would usually go for. Target?
Coming up, old boyfriends with disturbing pasts.
There was a restraining order in effect.
Play cat and mouse with police.
That wasn't his real name. This guy was ducking us.
When an unexpected tip sparks a race to find the killer.
Oh, he was just a monster.
There was now an absolute manhunt.
Police investigating the gruesome murder of Diane Zaleski found a single business card in the victim's wallet. It belongs to a man named Mark. Investigators want to know if he and Diane recently met, and when detectives question him, they become suspicious.
The words that came out of his mouth about targets were very strange. His mannerisms and just the things he said, they were wrong. I don't call girls that I'm gonna go out with targets. He had done something, maybe, to other women. He wouldn't tell us anything.
Detectives found a drop of blood at the crime scene that they believe belongs to Diane's killer. Could it be linked to Mark?
He refused to give DNA. Just out and out refused.
It was something that was concerning to us. Someone who's innocent usually is cooperative.
He had taken a bottle of water from us, and when he was finished, he wouldn't throw it out. He left. And he carried his bottle of water with him. So he obviously knew something about DNA. So I followed him. He walked about 2 blocks away from the building, and he threw it.
Detectives collect the bottle and send it in for testing. As news of the murder spreads,
I couldn't believe it. I just was like, oh my God. Oh my God. It was like a bad dream. I just couldn't believe that it was her. It was just so devastating.
police fan across Diane's neighborhood, hoping someone saw something.
One older neighbor told us that earlier she had seen 2 children playing outside. And she knew one of the children lived in the neighborhood. She didn't know who the other child was. During the winter, she had seen him shoveling Diane's driveway.
Had the neighborhood kids witnessed anything out of the ordinary?
And so detectives wanted to identify those children. And when we spoke with the neighbor across the street from Diane, kind of diagonally, she said she had a daughter and a grandson. So those were the children identified as being outside.
All she could say is, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. Her 11-year-old grandson didn't indicate anything else, and boom, the door gets closed and we're done with our canvas there.
But detectives do get information that raises some troubling new questions.
The neighbors told us that her garbage can was outside in the street, which led us to believe that the killer got rid of the garbage. How would he know that if he put the garbage out, it would be gone in the morning?
And why was the killer so desperate to get rid of it?
Was there evidence or fingerprints? We didn't know.
We contacted the local garbage company, and we unfortunately discovered that it was already in the incinerator.
When detectives reviewed Diane's autopsy report, they learned she was killed sometime between 10 p.m. and 1 the next morning.
The medical examiner determined the cause and manner of death to be homicide and multiple blunt force injuries. The wounds were too numerous to count.
The person that had done this was obviously very violent. Some person who had snapped.
Because the body had been cleaned, the medical examiner could not determine if there was any signs of sexual assault.
What she had to live through, it's gruesome. It's frightening. I struggle with why. Why did that happen to her? I really don't understand that it was just a heinous crime.
A week after Diane's death, investigators get the results from the blood they suspect came from the killer at the scene.
We were able to obtain a DNA profile, and it was male.
We did enter the profile through a DNA data bank, and that came up negative.
So we knew we had the killer, we just didn't know who it was.
Will Mark be a match? Police have to wait another week to find out.
And he was negative.
Because DNA is the only piece of evidence police have to tie the killer to the scene, detectives need to find the match.
It was our goal to locate and interview every male individual that she was friends or romantically involved with and obtain a DNA sample. We discovered that there was over 100 male contacts in Diane's phone.
One of the first contacts detectives talk to is someone named Mike Prunell.
We showed him a picture of Diane. He was like, Mark, he denied ever knowing her. And okay, take people at their word.
Without anything linking Mike to Diane, detectives don't see any reason to question him further. and let him go.
We are interviewing basically anybody and everybody, and we were coming up with nothing. We interviewed girlfriends just to get a feel of Diane, how she was, if she had mentioned guys she might have been dating.
I met the prosecutor, and he wanted to know everything about Diane and what I knew about her. There was always drama with boyfriends. We thought for sure that it was one of those bad boyfriends.
A familiar name comes up, Mike Prunell. But he had told police he didn't know Diane, so detectives do more digging.
You know, checking driver's license histories and criminal histories, and you don't find Mike. We thought it was curious. We wanted to speak to him again, but he never returned a phone call. Every direction we followed, we ended up running into dead ends.
Why can't police find any records for Mike? And why did he lie about knowing Diane?
There was something out there that he was hiding.
When detectives ask Diane's brother Ron about Mike, what they hear completely surprises them.
Not only did he know her, but he asked Diane's father for her hand in marriage some 20 years prior. So he knew her real well. Another red flag.
Detectives investigating the murder of Diane Zaleski uncover shocking information about a prior person of interest. A man they interviewed, Mike Prunell, was adamant he didn't know the victim. But Diane's brother Ron tells police that's a lie.
We had found out Mike asked for her hand in marriage. He said Mike had an extensive history with her. He'd known her for at least 20 years. Prior to her move into the new house, she was renting an apartment from him for over a year. But he denied ever knowing her when I showed a picture of her to him.
Police discover more secrets and lies about Mike Prunell.
We found out that wasn't his real name. And when we did find out what it was, we ran his criminal history and we found out that he had domestic violence. And his wife at the time stated that he was beating her severely. He sat on her chest and was just pummeling her face to the point where her eye orbital was broken. So that sent flags off. We were totally convinced this was the guy, because he did beat his former wife. There was a restraining order in effect. And Diane was beaten so badly, this guy was pretty much ducking us. He wouldn't answer phone calls. It took us a little while to find him, but we did. Eventually, got him in again a second time.
But again, Mike won't admit he knows Diane.
He was being less than truthful. It's like, okay, you deny knowing her, you asked her to marry you. It's very suspicious.
He was lying, obviously. We never discovered the reason for that.
Getting nowhere, police take another approach.
We asked where he was, the time of the murder, and he couldn't give us an alibi. We spoke to him in depth. He didn't give us any answers, nothing concrete.
Detectives can't hold him, but they don't want to let him go before getting one thing.
Eventually, he did consent to DNA. Our hopes are all raised.
We immediately transported it to our lab. We would get the result within 48 hours.
While they wait, Mike is released for the second time, and detectives work to place their suspect at the scene.
We found out that his brother ran a business close to Diane's house. Hopefully there was video evidence there for people that were coming and going. Somebody who worked there might have seen him. We interviewed everybody, but it didn't really drum up anything tangible. And there was absolutely no video surveillance at all. Nothing.
Detectives' next hope lies with the DNA results.
And it was negative. It wasn't a match.
We were feeling frustrated. because we knew the killer was still out there. We had his profile. To say this wasn't a mountainous investigation is an understatement. We had to track down and obtain biological samples from close to 100 individuals.
We took swabs from her family members so that we could exclude them. At some point, as being the source of the DNA.
While searching through Diane's computer, forensic analysts discover new information.
We took her computer. There were several different things that we found.
Everything is time-stamped. Hours after Diane's death, there was activity on the PC.
Numerous items, technology items, were attempted to be purchased using Diane's credit card. It was someone that was comfortable having things delivered to Diane's house and it not being out of the ordinary if they were the ones collecting them.
We knew he tried to purchase an Apple computer, an iPhone, and it didn't go through. We had no idea why the purchase itself didn't go through.
We also found that the killer, while in the home, was also searching pornographic websites.
I mean, to go on pornographic websites after you just brutally killed a woman.
Waiting for justice takes a toll on Diane's friends.
Who could it be? Why is this so complicated? We watch the news all the time and we see these things, we see murders, but when it happens to somebody you know, it's devastating. It's sad. It made me very sad about humanity. That someone is so capable of doing something so brutal to someone that is so beautiful. Everyone that loved her wanted closure on this.
3 weeks after Diane's murder, detectives get results back from the crime lab that send the investigation in an unexpected direction.
We tested the black underwear found next to the decedent's head. DNA profile was collected. That DNA came back to her brother.
3 weeks after 54-year-old Diane Zaleski is savagely murdered, detectives discovered DNA from the crime scene belongs to someone close to home.
The DNA that was in the pair of underwear lying next to Diane came back to Ron, her brother. A lot of things ran through all of our minds.
We just couldn't believe it.
We thought that there might have been something sexual with her brother, and she had enough. And he killed her, brutally killed his sister. Diane's brother worked for the Department of Public Works, so he would know when garbage was collected on her street.
The killer knew I can stay until the garbage is removed and then I'm safe to leave.
So there's a possibility that Diane's brother could have done it, collected all the evidence, and taken out the garbage. The killer was there for a long time. Diane's brother, he knew her pattern, her daily pattern. He would be comfortable staying on the scene, making themselves something to eat. I called him up that night and said, hey, do you got 10 minutes to come down and talk to me?
Ron agrees to come in the next day.
How do you say this without accusing the brother of basically having sex with his sister? Because that's what it leads you to believe. I have this report saying that Ron's semen was found in the underwear, so I just put the report on the desk and I slid it over to him and I said, what do you think? It's like he was hit by a freight train. The jaw drops. He said, I can't explain it. It can't be true. He went on about the wash and the laundry, that up until just prior to her death, she was doing laundry at her brother's house. I sort of left it at that. I said, we can keep this between us for now. I'll talk to you again in a couple days.
In the interim, detectives send Ron's DNA to compare with the blood spot found at the scene. They also get some crucial details from Ron's wife.
The wife said he was home with me, he couldn't have done this, he didn't do this. We asked specific pointed questions. She told us they weren't Diane's underwear, They were Ron's wife's underwear. They had the same size and brand of underwear. She did tell us that Diane had been doing laundry in their house. We also found out sperm can be resilient into the wash. So the sperm that was in the underwear could actually be from Diane's brother, and her sister-in-law and her underwear got mixed up. The whole family got by his side. After conducting all the interviews, we all came to the conclusion that he didn't do a thing.
There's hard proof of Ron's innocence when investigators find out his DNA isn't a match for the blood found at the scene.
Case took lots of twists and turns, and there were parts that were shocking to us where we had to kind of sit down and regroup. Diane was also on some dating websites, so we also had to attack that aspect of the case.
Could she have met someone sinister over the internet?
Online dating can be frightening. There are people who are really troubled, and if they come across your path, you are the victim.
Detectives focus on someone who called and texted Diane a lot.
Kyle came to our attention because he was in her phone. And Kyle was very evasive. Didn't want to come in for an interview. He was just a friend. He wasn't romantic with her at all. At least that's what he said.
But was that true? Or did Kyle want more than Diane's friendship?
Her circle of friends said he was a possible person of interest. And we acted on it. We followed up on it. He was not cooperative. We obtained subpoenas to go find him and bring him in for statements.
When he finally did come in for an interview and refused to give a DNA sample, I think it was too intrusive to him. And he asked a lot of questions. Normally, I'm the guy asking all the questions. So it gets your radar up a little bit that something's not exactly right with this guy. He actually said that he was at the house the week prior to her death, so he was familiar with the house, wanted a relationship with the victim. He denied that. We didn't believe that was true at all. People that I'd spoken to didn't think that he was her type. Maybe she laughed at him and told him to get out. Why else would he be evasive if he wasn't hiding something?
There were no signs of forced entry at all to the home. So Diane must have let this person into her home.
Was that person Kyle?
Maybe he didn't go there with the intent to kill, but maybe something flipped the switch.
Detectives want to know where Kyle was the night of the murder.
He said he works nights, and all the access in the building was key card controlled.
Detectives check logs. There is a record of Kyle swiping in.
But who's to say that somebody else wasn't using his key card? Until we got DNA, we'll just never know.
Investigators tell Kyle if he wants to be ruled out, he needs to cooperate.
We did eventually collect his DNA. He was negative. DNA set him free.
As weeks turn into months, investigators are far from uncovering the identity of Diane's killer.
We're hitting the year anniversary of Diane's death. It was very hard to explain to the family that we were no closer. You saw a family not being able to fully grieve because they didn't know who did this.
It was like a bad dream. I was worried. I said that they should have found someone by this time.
We knew the killer was out there. We were feeling frustrated. He would never be identified. That was our worst fear.
It's been a year since Diane Zaleski was found stabbed to death in her home, and police are no closer to solving her murder. To find her killer, detectives come up with a new strategy.
You usually try to piece together the victim's life, but we felt we needed to come at this from another angle and try to figure out who our suspect was.
Detective Henderson met with the FBI profile unit to identify what type of behavior a person may have done this to Diane.
We talked to psychologists, psychiatrists, and we hashed everything out. Where we went, why we went there, what did this lead, is there anything still open? We went through all the DNA, we went through all the interviews, we went through the whole case. You know, the person trying to buy stuff online, the pornography that was visited, everything. We laid out the whole case.
The profile came back to a loner, a petty thief, possibly, someone with psychological issues, someone that was in her life, but not for a long time.
Age would have been younger. It would have been somebody that was into technology.
We realized that the individuals that we were speaking to did not fit that profile.
To catch the killer, investigators generate new leads.
One of the things was, on the year anniversary, do a media blitz. Local TV, local newspapers.
We just wanted to see whether or not it might stir the pot.
Detectives decide to release new information to the public.
So the things that we included in the press release, whoever killed Diane cleaned up after himself. We also said that we now have the killer's DNA on file. And then we recanvassed everywhere.
After a month, detectives have received a flurry of new tips. And one really grabs their attention.
Detective Rob Henderson received a phone call from an individual out of state indicating that she was on social media with an individual who was concerned about his well-being and his safety because he thought he was being investigated by police because of a serious crime he committed in New Jersey.
She tells me, I'm a stay-at-home mom. You may think I'm a little crazy, but I'm Facebook friends with this guy.
This woman was on Facebook and had met a person years earlier in a Facebook chat room, and then eventually formed a friendship with this person. She explained to us that she had had conversations with him that were troubling to her.
She had said that he had told her that he had committed a murder.
This witness was very concerned for her family, but she said, if he had anything to do with this, I need to speak the truth.
We had been friends for about 3 or 4 years at that time. We used to chat through Instant Messenger all the time. He had a lot of different screen names. He called me his big little sister. He was 9 years younger than me. He told me he lived in New Jersey. He was fluctuating in and out of homelessness. He told me that he sold drugs and things like that, but I didn't feel like that was who he was. I think he was just doing it because he felt like he had to. Out of the blue, he's like, I did the worst thing you can think of. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, like, what is he talking about? I don't know, a drug dealer getting killed. And I was like, what did you do? He said, they found DNA. And so I'm like, what do you mean they found DNA? While I was talking to him, I Googled some articles just to see if anything matched up with the story that he told me. And so I went online and I looked up murder, New Jersey DNA. And instantly an article came up.
She searched and she found the 1-year anniversary article. We put together to try to rekindle some interest in Diane's story.
I was shocked of what I did find. The article says that he tried to purchase an iPad with using her credit cards. The information that they put in the article matched what I knew about my friend. and a light bulb just went off in my head. I know that's him. It had to have been him.
She told us that he had been washing clothing at the home and at how he had literally been in his boxers cleaning.
She told me that he told her that he made himself dinner. Now, we did release certain things in the article about there was some food, but we didn't say he made himself a meal. We didn't provide that information, but he did.
We ended that phone call, and then within a matter of hours, we're booking a flight to visit her and to take some evidence from her. Upon meeting with her and looking at her computer and doing a forensic examination, we knew we had the right guy.
Detectives ask the woman for his name.
Nahshon. That's what he called himself, because he didn't like his first name, Darnell.
She was a little nervous and a little hesitant, but eventually she gave us his full name.
Arnell Yearwood.
The last name gets detectives' attention.
We knew from our canvas that individuals with that same last name lived diagonally across the street from Diane.
When we look back at all the documented reports, it was determined that we had spoke to the killer's mother.
After over a year and a half investigating the grisly murder of Diane Zaleski, police finally get the break they need. They have the name of the suspected killer, Arnell Yearwood. And in a shocking twist, detectives discover his family actually lives on Diane's street, and they've been to the house.
We were there last year after one older neighbor told us that she had seen two kids playing outside. And she knew one of the children lived in the neighborhood. She didn't know who the other child was.
We did some more digging and some more investigation on Yearwood. Arnell Yearwood, although he was in his 20s, he was very small in stature. So he could be mistaken in a puffy jacket for a kid. We knew that Diane had some kids on the block helping shovel snow or do some yard work. It really led us to believe who was described as this kid was the killer. We went back across the street, made it look like we were canvassing other homes, but really we only had one home that we wanted information from, and that was his mother, Mrs. Yearwood. So we went to her home, said, "We know you have a son," and asked specific information about that son. And her daughter, who lived in the home, the mother of that child that was seen on the block, expressed to us that her brother, Arnell, had been at times living in the basement. And it would have been during the time frame of Diane's murder. That her brother sometimes would be outside with her own son.
Arnell's mother insists she has no idea where her 26-year-old son is.
We have to find this guy because we have to do a DNA match.
There was now an absolute manhunt.
A track and trace on Arnell's phone narrows down his position.
Somebody's got eyeballs on the house, and next thing you know, a kid starts walking down the street. And sure enough, it was Arnell Yearwood. And he was 5'1", 120 pounds, soaking wet, wearing winter clothes. Looked like a kid.
No one expected this.
We scooped him up, and we took him back to the office. He was nonchalant. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think I was there then.
Detectives push harder, knowing they need to get a DNA sample from Arnell to compare to the crime scene.
He did consent, but after we took his DNA, and he stopped talking. My boss called me at 7 o'clock that night and said, "It's him."
On April 7th, 2012, police arrest Arnell Yearwood for the murder of Diane Zaleski.
He was charged and brought back to the homicide task force and questioned again.
This time, Arnell starts talking, and investigators can now piece together what happened the night of Diane's murder.
She let him in based on the fact that he was a neighbor.
He did small chores for Diane. The garbage, minor painting, cleaning around the house. He entered the house to collect money.
Diane looked at him as the nice neighbor kid that she was trying to help. He knocked on her door that night and she let him in because she thought he was harmless. He wanted a romantic relationship and things went bad, and he did not take kindly to being rejected.
She told him to get out, and that's when he said he took a pair of scissors and he started stabbing her. In the entrance right at the front door, that's where the first attack occurred. After he had her down on the ground, he was strangling her. He dragged her down the stairs and left her body dead at the bottom of the stairs. And then he went about his cleanup and cleanup of him, the cleanup of her, and his pornography watching. And at some point, he made himself something to eat.
But why would this kid brutally murder this vivacious woman?
The killer never talked about a motive, ever. And to prove a murder, you don't have to prove motive. We never identified what a motive was.
Whatever it was that caused him to act the way he did, so viciously, it will never be explained.
In court, Arnell Yearwood pleads guilty to the murder of Diane Zaleski. He is sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Oh, he was just a monster. I was disappointed, but I guess that's the maximum you can get. At least there was some accountability, because she deserved that. Her family deserved that.
The family made up black bracelets with white lettering that said "Justice for Diane, November 18th, 2010, which was the date she was murdered. And I wore that bracelet up until the day he pled guilty in court and went to jail. 2.5 years I wore that, and I didn't take it off.
Losing Diane is like a moment in life, like before Diane and after Diane. It's been quite a few years since she's gone, but I do still miss her. Her heart is still with me. She was so real and very kind, and she was funny. And every once in a while, I could feel her. I could feel her presence. And I think I look forward to seeing her someday again.
An ambitious young woman loved by the community.
Everyone was friends with Terry.
She was hardworking, had 2 jobs.
By 21, she owned a home.
Has her future ripped away.
This was a particularly brutal attack.
They stabbed her multiple times on that road.
This would have been a horrifying death.
Police discover unwanted admirers prone to violence.
He was covered in blood and had blood in his hair.
And always carrying a knife.
He was jealous and said that it'd kill her.
But the evidence leads nowhere.
The investigation is getting older and older and harder to solve.
I didn't think we were going to get an answer for this case.
Until a surprise breakthrough.
I was beyond excited. I actually shouted, "Oh my God," at my desk.
Points to a killer off the radar.
Right away, I'm like, who's that guy?
Why? Why did someone do this?
People said, "Oh, no, he wouldn't kill anybody." But he had this pretend life.
He had no criminal record. He did not emerge as a likely suspect at all.
Germantown, Wisconsin, a sleepy village celebrated as one of the best places to live in America.
I grew up in Germantown. It's, a small community. I would ride my bike to the store for my mom. It was not someplace that you were afraid of.
Germantown is a small town near Milwaukee, a lot of farmland, a lot of open spaces, just a lot of dairy farming, some factories, and homes.
But on May 28th, 1999, this bedroom community wakes to a horrific crime.
Yeah, I have a dead body up here, and Up River Lane, there's a green car there, green Pontiac car. She's laying by the curb. There's blood on the road.
I got a phone call that there was a suspected homicide in the industrial park. I immediately went to the crime scene. I saw a vehicle on the side of the road facing west, a large amount of blood in the roadway. I observed what appeared to be footwear impressions in blood. I saw what appeared to be drag marks of blood, 2 large pools of blood, and alongside the vehicle was a female lying face down. When we rolled her over, she had a significant number of what appeared to be stab wounds on her front. She had stab wounds on both sides of her neck.
She had some blood on her hands, and, you know, we're always hoping that there's a fight so she can either scratch the attacker. So the hands were swabbed for DNA.
We proceeded with the perspective. She may have not been expecting it, and things went south very, very fast. I do believe there was rage in this case.
That usually is indicative of personal, that they know each other, and it's almost to the point of overkill.
Who was this woman who had been so savagely murdered? Investigators looked to the victim's car for answers.
The vehicle itself appeared to be parked in a reasonable manner alongside the road.
Her car keys were by her body, so she probably had them when she got out of her car and then dropped them in the fight.
The keys indicated that she willingly got out of the vehicle and talked to someone, and then the homicide occurred. The stabbing continued not only in the roadway, but on the grass at 2 different locations, and then it looked like it may have occurred alongside the vehicle.
There's blood spatter and cast off on her wheel, on her hood, on her fender, and up on her windshield.
Her purse was in the vehicle. There was $200 in her purse.
This was not a robbery. This was something else.
After finding a driver's license, police determined the victim is 22-year-old Teresa Wesolowski.
Out on the road, there was tire acceleration marks leading away from the pool of blood in the roadway, as if you put your foot on the accelerator and peeled out, confirming to us that there was another vehicle in front of her where she was more than likely stabbed.
Police comb the crime scene, but no murder weapon is found. As detectives try to make sense of what happened to Teresa, her lifelong best friend Michelle gets a call.
Terry's brother called, and it was early. Not that it was out of the ordinary, because we were all so close. And so I answered, and he's like, Michelle, Terry never came home last night. Well, I'm going to start calling police departments. And Germantown said, we have her name on file. You'll have to come and speak to a detective.
Michelle and Teresa's brother rushed to the station. They had last seen Teresa the day before when she left for work.
I'll never forget, the officer was in front of me. And I said, where is she? And he said, I'm sorry, she's gone. And I just remember screaming. Someone just told me my friend is gone. What does gone mean?
Born in Germantown, Wisconsin, Teresa Wesolowski grew up an outgoing girl with a magnetic personality.
Everyone was friends with Terry. We became best friends in 6th grade. And from that moment on, we were inseparable. We were sisters. There were not many people that called her Teresa. She was always Terry. I think the only time that I remember her being called Teresa was when her mom was mad. When we had done something wrong. It was always just her and I on the playground. I mean, we were just always, I want to say, running the neighborhood, you know? I can't remember a weekend that I wasn't at her house.
As she got older, Teresa was fiercely independent, buying a car at 16 and moving out on her own at 18.
She was working at Cousins Subs in Mequon, and she would go there at 7 a.m., and she would get done by 1, and she would head over to Stone Container, and she would work till 11 o'clock at night.
Despite a heavy work schedule, Teresa loved to be social.
Oh, Terry was fun. You know, Terry liked attention, and she definitely liked the attention from men. Men just seemed more attracted to her. She was young, she was beautiful. Any guy would have wanted that.
How then did someone so driven and well-liked meet such a horrible fate?
Young female, you know, at the beginning of her life, getting things together, and it's ended.
Back at the station, investigators reach out to Teresa's family and friends to piece together the hours leading up to her death.
Her shift ended at 11, and the last that anybody saw of her that we know of was that she got into her vehicle and left that parking lot.
During the interviews, detectives get their first tip.
That morning, the officers received a contact from somebody at the Department of Public Works. They had a channel on the same radio system that the police department was on, so they would know that the homicide occurred. They indicated that somebody driving a truck pulled into the parking lot. An individual got out, and they said that he was covered in blood and had blood in his hair.
Is this man somehow connected to the crime scene? Detectives head over to interview the witnesses, who tell police they'd never seen the man before.
We were told the truck driver asked if there was a hospital nearby, and then he indicated now he'd just clean up in the bathroom, which he did, and then left.
It's very common that the person who's doing the attacking gets stabbed too or cuts himself, especially if there's a struggle. Now we had a suspect, a viable suspect, and now we needed to find that person to figure out what happened.
Coming up, detectives uncover suspects with violent tendencies.
He said he can cut people like paper. He could become abusive and violent.
And untangle a web of deception.
Well, he was never married. He didn't have any kids.
He said, I don't want to be a snitch.
Leading them to a suspect they never imagined.
We really felt that we had turned the corner on this case.
It was almost surreal. It got me because it wasn't anyone I knew.
Hours after finding Teresa Wesolowski stabbed to death at the side of the road, police search for a man seen covered in blood at a nearby public works building.
We had a very good police artist. He did a sketch of the individual based on the statements from the witnesses, put the word out there into the community.
While police wait for leads on the bloody man, they shift their attention to Teresa's home to look for clues.
I went down to Teresa's house. We made a search of the residence. I checked the shoes in the residence against the footwear impression at the crime scene, and none of them matched. So the footwear impression at the scene weren't Teresa's.
Investigators talk to Teresa's family and friends, hoping to learn more about her. They learned she was dating someone named Charlie.
Charlie was a young man who didn't hold down a lot of jobs very well. He was staying at his parents' house. They had been dating for a few months prior to her homicide.
We had known Charlie since grade school. We grew up with Charlie. He was 3 years older than us.
We had some people that we interviewed that said they fought a lot or she wanted to break up with him.
I didn't think Charlie was good for anyone. In Terry's mind, he was temporary.
A couple of weeks before her homicide, we found out that he borrowed her car while she was at work and failed to pick her up. She walked to the tavern, and then they got in a bit of an argument, and she finally said enough is enough.
Friends worried how Charlie might react to Teresa moving on.
Some of the people indicated that Teresa told them this boyfriend was jealous and said that if he caught her going out with somebody else, he'd kill her.
He said, give me 2 weeks and you won't have your friend anymore. You're like, what do you mean I won't have my friend?
So that it raises a flag that we have to determine if it got worse after that or was it just a one evening spat.
You know, stabbing is very personal. That usually is indicative that they know each other.
Why did someone do this? What did she do that was so bad that someone had to stab her repeatedly in this crime of passion?
Police immediately bring Charlie in for questioning.
Charlie was very nervous and seemed to act like he didn't really want to be there.
When police asked Charlie where he was the night of the murder, he says he was home.
He lived in the basement of his parents' house, and he was alibied by his mother. I remember the mother claiming there's no way he could get out of this house without me hearing it.
However, he slept in the basement, which the patio door opens up from the basement outside, so he could leave the house without his parents knowing. The time Teresa got off of work at 11 at night, and she's found in the morning at 5 or 6 o'clock. So his alibi has weaknesses. It's not airtight.
Could Charlie have snuck out, driven to see Teresa, and murdered her?
Did Charlie have access to a car? He borrowed cars from people a lot. So could he have had a car that night? Yeah, he could have. The homicide's probably less than 5 miles from his house.
Police looked to the tire track evidence.
The tire tracks at the scene were measured and documented. I made contact with the Michigan State Police, who have a database of vehicles. They came back with a list of vehicles based on manufacturer specifications that could have created that. And it's quite a large list.
While detectives continue to investigate Charlie, they also turn to the box factory where Teresa worked.
Whenever you have a homicide like this and it's right down the road from where she worked, obviously your biggest pool of suspects has to be the guys she worked with. There was a fair number of men that were interested in her, and there were some that, had dated her. There were some that wanted to date her.
It wasn't like she was going out and dating them. She just liked hanging out with them.
So we went to the factory to determine who had contact with Teresa, and is there anything that stands out and points to any particular individual as possibly having done this.
We interviewed one of her co-workers named Mark Lebecki. Mark Lebecki worked the same shift as Teresa.
Mark was known as a soft-spoken but well-liked guy at the factory.
He's a very quiet individual, very reserved. Most people would describe him as very mellow.
Working just a few machines away from each other, Mark and Teresa had become close.
He talked to her at work. He was a nice, likable person.
And it got to the point where they developed kind of a friendship.
Unlike the men at the factory who wanted to date Teresa, Mark preferred sharing stories about his family.
Mark Lebecki told Teresa that he had a couple kids and he kept photos of them in his wallet. He would show them to Teresa, saying, "These are my kids."
He talked to her enough to create a relationship that she felt the need to go and talk to him when he needed a friend.
Mark tells police he is saddened by Teresa's death. He also remembers something was off with her the night she died.
He indicated that he saw her that night of the homicide and commented that it looked like she was having a bad day, and she said, yeah, something was jamming in her machine.
She just laughed it off and moved on.
Having no reason to question Mark further, police turned to coworkers with a less amicable relationship with Teresa.
There were some statements from individuals that they observed her having an argument with somebody by the vehicle before the night of the homicide.
The man Teresa was arguing with is identified as her coworker, Isaac Alvarez. When police dig into his background, they find some troubling details.
Isaac Alvarez was just a little bit weird, and he always carried a knife.
At one point, he was upset with a coworker, and he said, "I'm going to cut that cracker, or I'm going to knife that bitch." He told somebody else that, he can cut people like paper.
His comments about cutting up a supervisor, those are the comments that we heard, and those are the comments that kept our interest in him.
To find out more, police look into Isaac's personal life.
His ex-wife indicated that he did have a knife he always kept on his belt, and she indicated that he could become abusive and violent after one drink.
Police bring in Isaac to shed light on his relationship with Teresa and why they were arguing at work.
And in talking to him about Teresa, you could see the emotion coming out of him. This was very stressful for him. that's also the type of stressor that might cause somebody to commit a homicide.
Then, Isaac reveals something else.
He did ask Teresa if she wanted to meet him for a drink, and Teresa, being who Teresa was, she didn't say, no way. She said, well, we'll see. He shows up and she's not there. Is that rejection?
Had Teresa's rejection sent Isaac into a murderous rage?
We asked Isaac to take a polygraph. Because of Isaac's strange behaviors, outbursts, maybe prone to violence, and always carrying a knife, and he was seen in the parking lot area that night, he was on our main suspect list.
While investigating the stabbing death of Teresa Wesolowski, police focus on her co-workers.
She's working in a factory populated by mostly men. That sets up a scenario where you're going to have people trying to ask her out. She was outgoing and she was friendly, so people could perceive that as being led on, where in fact she was probably just being nice.
She always tried to let him down easy. She would always be like, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. She just wanted to make sure that they still wanted to be her friend.
At the police station, investigators interview one of those workers, Isaac Alvarez. Witnesses saw Isaac argue with Teresa before the night of her death.
Isaac's alibi, when he was interviewed, he was home. He lives with a 50-plus-year-old lady. His story was he went to bed at 9 o'clock, and he may have had a conversation with her when she came home, but he doesn't recall. She says she had a conversation with him 11:15, 11:30 at night, and she thought it was around 1 o'clock when he went to bed. It's a little different than his story. Well, in his case, is that person willing to lie for you? We don't know. So that's not an airtight alibi.
Police convince Isaac to take a polygraph.
He was somewhat deceptive and not answering the questions in the proper manner. And so we believe that he was trying to skew the results of the polygraph.
You couldn't get a good answer from him.
So because of that, it was ruled inconclusive.
Without any hard evidence, police can't charge Isaac for the crime. While detectives look for more leads, Teresa's autopsy report arrives.
Based on the injury patterns, the attack was a surprise attack because we did not see a significant amount of defensive type injuries. And then she was pinned in a prone or face down position. I individually identified and labeled 47 separate stab wounds. This would have been a horrifying death for any individual.
As police review evidence, they follow up on the lead on the bloody man from the Department of Public Works.
They had a sketch made of this unknown person that stopped at the garage to wash up.
We put it out there. The individual didn't come forward. It was out in the press. It was in the newspaper. I did go back and re-interview the witnesses, but nothing came back of evidentiary value.
Police also continue interviewing Teresa's friends.
I always protected Terry. So when she was killed, I had no purpose anymore. And so I gave my all to whatever they needed. It was hours and hours and hours of interviews with the police, trying to give them everything that I knew about every person we had ever hung out with, for me to help them to hopefully find who did this.
One of the people detectives learn about is Jerry Kirkpatrick.
So Jerry Kirkpatrick was a delivery guy to Cousins where Teresa worked.
Friends say Jerry asked Teresa out numerous times.
I don't think she was looking to have a relationship with him. He was definitely interested in her.
That's the indication that we got, that he was pursuing her more than she was pursuing him.
Police learn about one encounter with Jerry that left Teresa unsettled.
I thought I saw Jerry before she died at the club, just watching us. And it gave me this feeling like, why is he here? Like, he shouldn't know we're here. Why is he standing off in the shadows? It was a very creepy feeling.
So the question is Jerry stalking her?
But then, Teresa's friends point out something else disturbing about Jerry.
They thought he might be similar to the picture of the person that was at the Department of Public Works. The drawing looked like him.
Officers immediately interview Jerry at his home. Jerry denies he is the man in the sketch. He claims he was at a bar with his stepbrother the night of Teresa's murder, then went home before midnight.
There was alibi information that was confirming of the statement. When he got home, he called for a pizza to be delivered, and that was confirmed subsequently with phone records. He let us look at his vehicle. We examined the interior or exterior. Nothing of evidentiary value was located in that examination.
Then, investigators make a startling discovery.
There were knives found at Jerry Kirkpatrick's residence.
A lot of times we'd ask people, do you have knives? And can we see those knives? Do you mind if we have them tested? A lot of times that's done for reaction. So he presents 4 or 5 knives. He did let us look at them when we were at the house. We even submitted them to the crime lab to have it analyzed.
While investigators wait for results, Jerry's landlord delivers some alarming news.
What happens within the next few days is he talks to his landlord about breaking his lease.
Jerry Kirkpatrick decided to move out of town, and that's in the midst of being interviewed and the investigation. So right away, that raises our suspicion.
Was Jerry trying to give detectives the slip?
It is clearly a red flag, and we have to look at that behavior as being possibly flight behavior. So we want to find out why.
While investigating Jerry Kirkpatrick for the brutal stabbing of 22-year-old Teresa Wesolowski, detectives learn from Jerry's landlord he's about to skip town.
The landlord knew the police were talking to Jerry. We were actually notified by the Milwaukee Police Department because the landlord had thought, hey, this is odd, and called them. He says he's going to move to Tennessee. One of the aspects you look at in a homicide, is there any flight behavior after the homicide? Well, breaking your lease and moving to Tennessee might be described as flight behavior. We did confirm that he put money on a place on that Friday after the homicide.
But when investigators get the lab results back on Jerry's knives, the case takes a frustrating turn.
Nothing came back of evidentiary value.
Somebody having a collection of knives is not that uncommon, especially in Wisconsin. And the quick move that he made is something strange, but, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. If he wants to move, he can move.
Police have one more lead to follow. Jerry's resemblance to the bloody man at the Public Works building.
He fit that description. We actually did an in-person lineup with Jerry, and he was not picked out by the individuals that observed this person driving the truck.
That person was never identified and never located.
Without any hard evidence linking Jerry to the murder, police have to let him go. Weeks go by, and investigators worry the case will grow cold.
We're doing interviews. Some people we're re-interviewing, but as time moves on, the investigation is getting older and older and harder to solve.
As the weeks turn into months, investigators doggedly work the case.
Well, I technically could have retired about 5 years before I did. A lot of it is to bring justice for the victim, but also to bring some sort of resolution or closure for the family.
The police kept telling me that it was...
Brandy Hall disappeared on Thursday, August 17th, 2006. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Brandy Hall's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. In Central Florida, a firefighter and mother goes missing.
She left by herself, and she did not appear to be in any kind of distress.
24 hours later, her truck turns up empty, submerged in a pond.
I seen a picture of Brandy's truck and being pulled out of a pond, and I just started going crazy.
Did Brandy Hall have reason to flee?
I can't grasp the concept of her just up and leaving and living in Costa Rica, sipping a pina colada.
Or did someone want to hurt her?
You can't help but think it. Perfect timing. Right before his court appearance, she disappears.
As an investigation begins, the mysteries only multiply.
She was fixing to get her life back. She was fixing to get her job back. Things were looking so good.
Leaving Brandy's loved ones in an endless state of panic.
Somebody wake me up out of this horrible, horrible nightmare.
It's Thursday night, August 17th, 2006. 32-year-old Brandy Hall has just begun her shift at the volunteer fire station in Malabar, Florida. Brandy is one of only 2 female firefighters in the squad, but she fits right in and is well liked by her colleagues.
Brandy's the kind of a person that comes around once in a lifetime that's truly, genuinely sincere about helping others. If you were going to be anybody in the fire service, you'd want to be like Brandy Hall.
Brandy is something of a local hero. Her adventurous spirit shaped by the sandy swamps and palm groves of Bull Creek, where she grew up.
I think growing up in Bull Creek did good for Brandy. And just like a little community that everybody sticks together and takes care of everybody.
Bull Creek's amazing. It's 22,000 acres of beautiful woods, and that was our playground out there. We learned how to grow up back there.
From an early age, Brandy was a strong, tough girl.
I was initiated by Brandy. The first day I met her, she threw me into the mud. Brandy's very much the tomboy who wore Wranglers and boots and camouflage jackets, and that was Brandy.
She was more like a boy. She did everything boys did. She drove the airboat. She drove the four-wheelers and three-wheelers, and she fed off that stuff. She loved it. She liked being better than the boys. She was a happy girl. She was always the one that had the bright ideas.
Although Brandy seemed invincible, she almost lost her life in a 3-wheel all-terrain vehicle accident when she was 11.
She happened to go up a hill, and the 3-wheeler came back onto her face. Her skull was fractured, both her jaws were broken, a couple other cheekbone areas were broken.
She was in surgery, I think it was 10 to 12 hours, I believe, something like that. It was really traumatic.
After a month in the hospital, Brandy was released and underwent home care for another year. Despite lifelong pain and scarring, and several more surgeries as she continued to grow, Brandy rebounded.
I don't think the accident changed her. She had too much willpower. She had too much strength and want to do in her life, and you don't pick on Brandy. It don't matter whether she had a 3-wheeler accident or not. She was still gonna kick your butt if you picked on her.
But Brandy's accident did profoundly affect her in another way.
I believe it made her dedicate her life to wanting to help other people. That's why she became the firefighter and an EMT and a paramedic, because she wanted to always be there to help everyone.
Fresh out of high school, Brandy began volunteering at the Hollapaugh Fire Station. It's there that she met Jeff Hall, another firefighter, and her future husband.
When we first met, she was getting in there, getting her hands dirty, and I really liked that. I mean, she was mixing it up good, just like the other guys. I'd been in the fire service for years, and you didn't see too many women like that. So that's what I think was the initial attraction.
In 1992, Jeff and Brandy were married, and their careers took off. Jeff was promoted to fire chief of Osceola County, and Brandy started a full-time position at the Palm Bay Fire Station.
She was an excellent firefighter, and she could go in at a moment's notice and tell you exactly what was going on by the color of the smoke, the sounds that the building makes. She saved 95% of the homes that she went on.
Despite working 24-hour shifts, Brandy and Jeff made time to start a family, first having a girl and then a boy.
Oh, she was a fantastic mother. You couldn't ask for a better mother. being a firefighter, she worked 1 day on and 2 days off. Jeff and Brandy worked the same shift, so I would have them on their day that they worked all day and all night. She'd always call me and tell me to make sure that they were breathing, to put my hand on their stomach to make sure they're breathing. Maybe with some of the scenes that she saw, and she just wanted to make sure that they were still alive. She just loved her children and she loved her job.
By 2005, Brandy is leading a comfortable, happy life. But on July 2nd, she receives shocking news. Her husband Jeff and a friend are arrested for marijuana cultivation.
I really can't remember how it all came into play, how the ball started getting rolling. Just thought it would be fun and not really having the thought of the repercussions of such actions. It was a stupid mistake.
The grow operation was located on 13 acres of land, south of where Brandy and Jeff live with their children. Jeff pleads guilty to the charges, but maintains that Brandy has nothing to do with it.
Brandy thought I was renting the property to somebody. I was able to hide the money because we made a great deal of money. I had my pension, Brandy had a good salary, and also I had told people that I had rented our property for a pretty decent amount of money.
But Jeff is unable to shield Brandy from the repercussions of his crime. The property is in both his and Brandy's name, so she is also legally responsible. 6 days later, the authorities come to the fire station to arrest Brandy.
I could not believe it. I saw no reason why or how they even got an arrest warrant for her. I was very surprised. They waited till she was on duty and came and basically made a public spectacle out of her. When I picked her up from jail, she was just in shambles. I mean, she was constantly crying. I mean, I was terrified for her.
Brandy's charges are dropped soon after she is released from jail. But then she receives another blow. After 10 years of service, Brandy is fired.
Brandy's record as firefighter was immaculate. I think she got some of the highest reviews consistently every year. She never thought that it would actually go as far as terminate her. She thought everything would be dropped. The charges that would be dropped against her.
Brandy lived for the fire service, and it just tore her apart.
It was devastating. She was crying. She's like, "Mom, I can't lose my job," because she'd worked so hard, and it meant everything to her.
Not one to bow to adversity, Brandy immediately sets out to get her job back, seeking work as a volunteer in the nearby town of Malabar.
In the state of Florida, if you stay out of the fire service for a 2-year period of time, you lose your certifications. And she did not want to lose her certifications. And she asked me if I could bring her in and allow her the opportunity to be a volunteer.
Because Brandy and Jeff are also financially strapped, she wastes no time in finding paid work.
She started working for us in our construction company, just doing odd jobs, painting manholes or backflows and stuff like that. She was fixing to get her life back. She was fixing to get her job back. Everything was fixing to be settled with that. The trouble with the grow house and stuff, things were looking so good.
A year after his arrest, Jeff has a court date to be sentenced for his crime. Although there's a chance of getting off on probation, Jeff's former position as fire chief could bring the law down harder on him.
I was the chief. Now, what's this political figure? Brandy was afraid I was going to go to jail for a minimum mandatory of 3 years, if not higher.
In hopes of helping lighten the sentence, Brandy agrees to be a character witness on Jeff's behalf. She also enlists the help of her boss at the Malabar Fire Department.
I was approached by Brandy the evening before the court trial for her husband, and she asked if I would go to be a character reference at his trial, and hopefully it may soften the punishment.
On the eve of Jeff's hearing, Brandy is scheduled to stay at the station overnight. As she always does when she's working, Brandy says prayers with the children over the phone before they go to bed.
I called Brandy to say the prayer with the kids. We talked, and then I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
An hour after hanging up the phone with Brandy, Jeff receives another call.
Mom had called me and said, Jeff, do you realize that your court schedule had changed to like 8 o'clock in the morning? So I called and left a message with the lawyer, and I immediately tried to call Brandy.
But Jeff is unable to reach her. Brandy doesn't answer her phone, and her voicemail box is full.
That morning when I woke up, I talked to my attorney. He goes, no, there's nothing to worry about. We just need to be there early. Don't be there at 1 o'clock. Get there around 10 or 11 o'clock, and I'll meet you there. And then I tried to call Brandy. I never could get a hold of her. I called the fire department. They said she had already left.
Because Brandy's shift ends at 7 a.m., Jeff believes his wife is on her way home. But as he prepares the kids for school, Brandy doesn't show up.
I don't know if there's anything that could describe that. I mean, I was scared. I knew in my heart I was going to go to jail. Dropping the kids off at school, man, I was crying.
Jeff says goodbye to his children and begins the hour-long journey to the Osceola courthouse for his sentencing hearing. While driving, he continues trying to find Brandy.
I finally got a hold of TJ. He worked with Brandy at the fire station. They were good buddies. He said, Jeff, she left last night about 10:30.
Jeff is shocked. If Brandy left the station the night before, where is she now?
I mean, I was driving to court. I was worried to death I was going to be late there, not knowing what was going to go on, and it was just crazy. I was scared, and it just felt lost.
Coming up, in a tragic piece of timing, one parent goes to jail while the other remains missing.
Everything's running through my mind. What about the kids? Where's Brandy? It was terrifying.
Jeff Hall has just learned that his wife Brandy is missing. The 32-year-old volunteer firefighter was scheduled to be at the station until her shift ended at 7 a.m. But according to a colleague, Brandy left the night before.
I'm getting scared at this time. I'm freaking out. Where's she at? And got the court thing I'm going to. So it was very chaotic. Very chaotic.
For Brandy's husband, Jeff, the timing couldn't be worse. He's en route to a sentencing hearing for a marijuana cultivation charge he's pled guilty to. Despite an intense desire to begin searching for his wife, he must keep heading toward the courthouse.
I would just start driving around trying to find, I would have more time to try to look, just drive around and see where she went to. And I just couldn't do all that. I mean, I was driving to court.
Jeff arrives at the courthouse, hoping against all odds that Brandy will be there. Instead, he finds a small crowd of family and friends gathered outside, but no one knows where Brandy is.
I got to the courthouse and immediately talked to my lawyer, and he goes, Jeff, what's wrong with you? And I said, I can't find Brandy. And then, of course, Brandy's mom starts winging out. Just, where's she at? Where's she at?
We were all standing there together, and he didn't know where she was at either. So we didn't know what to think.
I was frightened. I was scared to death. But then I got to thinking, well, she's so petrified of this place.
Jeff recalls an earlier episode when Brandy refused to enter the court building.
During a pre-trial hearing, she wanted to stay in the truck. Our attorney told me it's going to last like 5 minutes. But she was so scared to go into that courthouse, she stayed in the truck. She was just terrified, totally terrified. I mean, just the whole atmosphere. I mean, it's just this whole part of our life was a very scary time. It was very traumatizing.
Jeff hopes that his wife has simply gotten cold feet. At the moment, he has no choice but to put his thoughts of Brandy aside and focus on his sentencing.
The hearing didn't last, I wouldn't think, maybe half an hour at that. Well, I lost all track of time. I was constantly thinking about Brandy not showing up, not being able to contact her. It went so fast. I mean, it was just me staying up there with my attorneys and the judge saying you get 18 months Department of Correction, 3.5 years probation, and it's over with.
Jeff's sentence of 18 months in prison seems particularly harsh to other firefighters.
They wanted to make an example because, we're in a trusted position, and that can't be tolerated. Your law enforcement and your fire and EMS are the people that have impeccable reputations, and to do this, it lost the trust of all the people. So, you got to abide by the law.
For Jeff, the sentence goes in one ear and out the other. all he knows is that he'll be locked up and unable to look for Brandy.
Until I got sentenced, until I got taken back and got my fingerprints again. And, you know, it's just constantly, you know, running through my mind. What about the kids? Where's Brandy? You know, it was terrifying.
As Jeff is handcuffed and taken away, family members quickly arrange for Brandy and Jeff's children to be picked up from school. Then they turn their attention to Brandy.
We knew where Jeff was going, so then after it was over, then it was time to go find out where Brandy was at, why she wasn't there.
But the facts are few. Brandy left the fire station the night before at 10:30 p.m. Now, almost 24 hours later, no one has seen or heard from her. Brandy's mother can't help but worry about her daughter's state of mind.
Brandy told me she and Jeff weren't getting along. I believe that their relationship got bad after he got arrested, and then she got arrested, and I'm sure Brandy was angry at Jeff over all this. She has a book probably 3 or 4 inches wide of all the certificates that she's accomplished. You can't be accountable for what somebody else is doing.
Unable to sit back and wait for news any longer, Debbie decides to look for Brandy herself.
I don't know, I just went towards Palm Bay, Malabar, looking. I probably drove by Brandy and Jeff's house to see if she might be there for any reason, just looking to see if I see her truck anywhere and find out what's going on.
Debbie drives for hours, searching for any sign of Brandy. It's almost dark when her worst fears are realized.
I remember coming to a stop sign. Right before the stop sign, Cher, one of her best friends, was coming the other way. Seems like she might have got out of the car and come running to me. And she's like, "They just pulled Brandy's truck up out of the pond."
Coming up, has Brandy taken her own life?
I mean, I sit there with my head on the window, just close my eyes, cried. You know, I cried like a baby.
Florida firefighter Brandy Hall never came home after ending her shift early on August 17th, 2006. Her husband Jeff had no time to look for her before making a scheduled court appearance. Now he's sitting in jail, completely isolated from any news in the search for his wife.
When I was in the holding cell, I had no contact with my family, so if something should arise, I wouldn't know if Brandy showed up or didn't show up. And I was worried sick the whole time, and this was hours and hours and hours. I was just sitting there with my head against the wall, against the window, just, you know, stomach in a knot, sick in my stomach.
Through the window of his cell, Jeff is able to see a television that the guards are watching. When the 11 o'clock news begins broadcasting, he gets the shock of his life.
I looked up and I seen a picture of Brandy's truck being pulled out of a pond, and I just started going crazy. I mean, emotionally, because it's obvious her truck. That was her pride and joy. Her truck. It's always her truck. I'm starting to freak out in my mind and saying, okay, what's going on here? Why is this, you know, and just didn't know what to think. I mean, I was like a basket case at this point in time.
Jeff can only imagine what the images mean. He must wait to learn anything more until he is finished being processed.
I went to the 23-hour lockup, and I don't even know what time that was. When you get in there, you're allowed one phone call. I was able to call my mom, and she tried to fill me in.
She tells him that earlier in the day, a man fishing in Palm Bay found a firefighter's bunker bag. The items inside, boots, pants, a jacket, and helmet, all belonged to Brandy Hall. Firefighters responding to the scene found broken branches and tire marks, suggesting that a vehicle was submerged underwater. They work with police to pull the truck out and confirm that it's Brandy's.
I just got my head hung against the window, just thinking, you know, what's going on, what's happening. Just cried. And I cried like a baby. I mean, I sit there with my head on the window, just closed my eyes, cried.
In Palm Bay, firefighters and police officers work into the night to look for Brandy. Many of them know her personally, and are deeply affected by the search.
It was very traumatic for me. I knew the family, I knew the children, and the circumstances of how we found this thing, and no one knowing anything, or what could have happened, or what did happen. It put a strain on me, personally.
Once Brandy's truck is fully removed from the water, the responders brace themselves for what they will find.
When they first opened the doors, they weren't sure if Brandy Hall was inside of the truck. When they let the water out of the vehicle and looked inside, they discovered that Miss Hall was in fact not in the vehicle.
The truck is sent to the station for a thorough forensic examination. The next morning, investigators resume searching.
Cadaver dogs were used to search the area. Volunteers were used to search that area. The woods and the area around that lake were searched pretty thoroughly by numerous volunteers and other agencies.
Divers also entered the pond, probing the murky depths for personal items relating to Brandy, or the firefighter herself.
Suicide was a theory. She had some financial pressures based on her losing her job at Palm Bay Fire Department, as well as court costs for her husband, who had pled guilty to a cultivation of cannabis charge in Osceola County.
The last time that I saw Brandy, she seemed okay to me, but she seemed like she was a little stressed out. The most thing that was weighing on Brandy's mind was her bills. You know, that she just felt like she was kind of getting buried. It was like she felt like she was working and never getting ahead. We didn't talk about Jeff's sentencing hearing a lot because the kids were around that day, but she did mention that, you know, she was nervous about the outcome and what was going to happen.
To be sure that the divers haven't missed anything, police begin work draining the pond. They also start developing other theories.
From there, investigators had to talk to Brandy Hall's family and friends to try to get a timeline of where she had gone, who she had talked to, and where she should have been at the time she went missing.
Brandy's husband, Jeff, is one of the first to be approached.
It was 1 to 2 days after I got put in jail that a detective came and saw me. Basically asked me if I did anything bad to her, and I said no, I didn't.
Jeff goes over with the detective the last contact he had with his wife.
He spoke with her around 9:30 the night before her truck was found, which would have been August 17th, when she called to say the prayers with her kids. He tried calling her at approximately 11 o'clock and was unable to reach her.
Detectives also speak to firefighters who were working with Brandy the night she disappeared.
Brandy Hall had told her coworkers that she just wasn't feeling good, and her stomach seemed upset, so she was going to go home and sleep.
Surveillance video from the fire station seems to confirm nothing out of the ordinary occurred that last night.
They looked at the video at the Malabar Volunteer Fire Department to make sure she didn't have any altercations with anybody there, as well as to see if anybody had followed her out of the parking lot.
The footage shows Brandy relaxed and at ease, speaking with her fellow firefighters in the station.
She left by herself, and she did not appear to be in any kind of distress or emotionally upset or anything. She left as anybody would leave work.
The timestamp on the surveillance cameras pinpoints Brandy's departure at 10:50 p.m. Investigators look next at Brandy's phone activity.
Cell phone records confirm that Brandy Hall called home approximately 9:30 at night, which would have been around the kids' bedtime. Cell phone records also confirmed that Jeff Hall had attempted to call Brandy Hall at approximately the time she would have been leaving the Malabar Volunteer Fire Department.
Both calls are consistent with Jeff's statement. But Jeff wasn't the last person to speak to Brandy that night.
Cell phone records also showed there was a phone call at 11:05 p.m. where there was an 11-minute conversation, which ended up being the last conversation documented that Miss Hall had.
Coming up, could this call lead police to Brandy's whereabouts? On August 17th, 2006, Brandy Hall walks out of the Malabar fire station and disappears. According to coworkers and in surveillance footage, Brandy's last hours at work don't seem out of the ordinary. But just after she leaves, Brandy places one last phone call. Police are able to trace the call to Randall Richmond, Brandy's former boss at the Palm Bay Fire Department.
Randall Richmond was a really close friend of the family to Brandy and Jeff. Firefighters are a very tight-knit group. Their families got together all the time and went camping together, and they just did all kinds of fun things together.
On Sunday, August 20th, Randall comes in for questioning and tells investigators shocking news. Brandy was planning on fleeing.
Mr. Richmond came into the police department, stated that Miss Hall had spoke to him Thursday night, which would have been August 17th, and said that she was leaving, she was going away. She was waiting at the Sunoco gas station for money. Miss Hall did not tell Mr. Richmond who was supposed to bring her money, only that she couldn't take it anymore. She was just going to go away and disappear.
Randall's account points the investigation in an entirely new direction. Did Brandy leave on her own accord? It's hard for those close to her to imagine.
I was hoping to God that maybe she got angry and just decided to dump the truck and walk away and get her thoughts together before she came back. But I can't grasp the concept of her just up and leaving and living in Costa Rica, sipping a pina colada and getting away from it all. I can't envision that.
I don't think Brandy left on her own accord. She had to be forced, in my sense, because there's no way she would leave her children. No matter what happened, she would not leave her children.
There's also the evidence at the pond. If Brandy fled, was sinking her truck part of an elaborate scheme to cover her tracks?
To know Brandy and know the type of person she was towards her vehicles, she wouldn't put her truck in the water. It's just impossible to think that. Somebody else is involved here. Somebody else had a helping hand in this.
Despite their doubts, detectives go ahead and check out Randall's story, but they are unable to confirm any of the details.
Nobody at the gas station remembered seeing Brandy Hall's truck there that evening, and there was no exterior video, so it was unable to be verified if she was in fact there.
Data from Brandy's cell phone carrier doesn't support the account either.
The information from the cell tower didn't show a pinpoint location, so where the signal was coming from could have been anywhere in a 3-mile radius, which would have included that Sunoco gas station, but also would have included the lake where her truck was eventually found.
As police go over this information, the results from the forensics examination of Brandy's truck come back. Detectives have found blood, and it belongs to Brandy.
The blood was in the map pocket of the driver's side door and also on the driver's side floorboard. Again, it was difficult to determine how much blood was there because of the water being mixed with it. So we couldn't tell just from looking at the blood if there was enough to say that the person would not have been able to survive with whatever injury caused that blood.
The new clue fuels speculation that Brandy staged her own murder in order to disappear.
Miss Hall would have known how to draw her own blood based on her training as a paramedic and as an EMT. She would have been around needles and would have had opportunity to do so.
Meanwhile, police finished draining the pond where Brandy's truck was found.
They couldn't find her body, so at that point, suicide seemed the least likely.
Brandy's loved ones wonder why, in all the searches, police have not turned up Brandy's gun.
She just grew up with guns. She always had a gun in her truck at all times. Her dad was very, very protective of her. Her dad taught her to keep guns on her. That was very normal for her to have that on her.
Brandy's missing gun underlines a more important point in the case. According to her friends, if someone approached Brandy that night, it had to be someone she knew.
Brandy wouldn't allow strangers near her truck or her equipment. And if she felt threatened, she wouldn't have them come very close to her either, so she was a very cautious person. If you look at it in that light, if they did assault her or attacked her, she would have had to trust them to allow them to get that close.
For detectives, the investigation has returned to square one. Who would want to hurt Brandy?
There's not a soul in the world that I know of that would want to ever hurt or harm Brandy. Everybody admired her. She was the most well-liked person I was ever associated with in my life.
But Brandy's golden reputation was much tarnished in the last year by her husband's arrest. Police begin forming a new theory. Could her husband's marijuana operation have put Brandy in danger?
I did hear that they were dealing with dangerous people. And because she was going to go in and testify on Jeff's behalf, I think they thought that she was going to release some names. And they didn't want that to happen.
The strange timing of Brandy's disappearance puts Jeff under suspicion.
You can't help but think it. Perfect timing. Right before his court appearance, she disappears. You know, did he do it because she may have spoke out about him? Who knows?
Police decide that it's time to speak to Jeff again. But the investigation hits a serious setback. Jeff is no longer talking. Coming up, will new clues lead investigators to Brandy Hall?
When they discovered the backpack, they looked inside the contents, found the day planner and the name Brandy Hall.
It's been a week since Brandy Hall's truck was found in the bottom of a pond in Palm Bay, Florida. But the 32-year-old mother of two is still missing. Investigators are beginning to suspect foul play and take a closer look at Brandy's husband, Jeff.
At the time of Miss Hall's disappearance, her husband was due to be sentenced. It was unclear whether she didn't want to testify. The theory was that there was drug dealers involved with a marijuana grow operation that killed her to silence her because Jeff was going to turn evidence against somebody.
But police are unable to talk to Jeff. He's out of jail and appealing his sentence.
Mr. Hall would not speak about the case, and his lawyers actually didn't want him to speak to us because it was still ongoing as far as the sentencing, and we were unable to clear up whether there was a bigger picture or other people involved that may have wanted to silence Miss Hall.
For police, Jeff's silence suggests he may have something to hide.
But Mr. Hall, he was considered a suspect that we had to eliminate, as was a lot of people in her circle. The fact that Mr. Hall was not able to speak directly with us caused a big question mark to be placed over his name as far as suspicion of guilt.
With no way to pursue this angle, the case begins to stall.
After the initial searches, it kind of just turned into nothing. I even hate to say it, it's like she just dropped off the face of the earth.
Time went on and nothing came of anything, and so they just sort of let it go like a cold case, I believe.
Almost a year has passed since Brandy Hall has gone missing. Family and friends find it increasingly difficult to hold on to the hope that Brandy is alive, when suddenly a clue surfaces.
On June 28, 2007, a backpack was discovered in a canal in Indian River County that was found to be Miss Hall's backpack that contained her day planner and some other personal items. When they discovered the backpack, they looked inside the contents, found the day planner and the name Brandy Hall.
The canal is approximately 30 miles south of the pond where Brandy's truck was found.
It's unclear how that backpack came to be in there. It's not connected in any way via any waterway, so the backpack had to have been thrown in to that canal close to where it was discovered.
The discovery of the backpack essentially rules out the theory that Brandy fled on her own.
The backpack was a small backpack and wouldn't be consistent with somebody traveling. There was some clothing found in the backpack. It wasn't enough to support anybody for more than a change of clothes.
Loved ones are also struck by the absence of Brandy's medication, which she took to fight the pain of the ATV accident she had as a child.
Brandy went nowhere without her medication because she would have major headaches. The medicine stayed in that backpack and they were never found.
Detectives follow through with the new lead, but are disappointed by the lack of results.
After the backpack was discovered, Miami Search and Rescue came back up with side-scanning sonar to check that canal to determine if maybe her body had been dumped in there or if she was in that canal or if there was any other evidence items. It ended up being just another dead end, so to speak, in this investigation.
Again, the search for Brandy hits a standstill. But then, there's movement in the case. After 14 months of silence, Brandy's husband, Jeff, agrees to talk.
I first spoke directly with the investigators as soon as the appeals process was over with. I think there was a lot of misconception, about that or why I was doing that, but we're trying to appeal a very serious situation.
Jeff loses his appeal and begins serving an 18-month sentence for marijuana cultivation.
It was probably within a month of me being sentenced. So they came to Central Florida Reception Center where I was at and talked to me there. I mean, I know the process, being thought of as a suspect or a person of interest because, I understand, I get all that. I'm a spouse.
Palm Bay police visit Jeff several times during his incarceration. They check out his whereabouts the night that Brandy went missing and make arrangements for him to take a lie detector test as soon as he's out.
Mr. Hall took the polygraph examination, and the results were that there was no deception indicated. Every time we contact Mr. Hall, he's very open with information. He's very forthcoming and willing to work with us however he can just to get an answer of what happened to his wife. I would not characterize Mr. Hall as a suspect at all.
In speaking with Jeff, Detective Pusatier is also able to clear up the rumors that Brandy was kidnapped or killed to prevent her from speaking out in court.
There's not no drug syndicate out of Mexico like was rumored to have or some big, huge operation. I say that's nonsense. I mean, total nonsense.
It was a smaller grow operation. They were just getting started. There was no Colombian drug lords out to kill them that had come up in some of the rumors that, oh, I think she was killed by drug dealers. We were able to eliminate that as a possible motive.
For Jeff, the feeling that his crime may have colored people's perception of Brandy's disappearance weighs heavily on him.
Would things have been handled differently if I didn't go to jail? Would more people have been concerned about looking for her? And, that just sucks. It's something that I did. And I got weight on my shoulders because I went to jail, did something wrong. And that's hard to live with.
But with Jeff's cooperation, police are able to consider a new angle. They take a closer look at Randall Richmond, Brandy's former boss, with whom Jeff believes she was having an affair.
After she went missing, I found one of her cell phones and I found some text messages. The text messages, pretty much at that point in time, made me realize that her and Randall were having an affair.
But police have already looked at Randall. He was the last person to speak to Brandy on August 17th, the night she disappeared.
In December of 2007, I wrote a search warrant for Mr. Richmond's vehicle. This was based on the fact that he was the last person to communicate with her. On August 18th, his truck was seen several times not far from where her truck was discovered. His vehicle was seized and a search warrant executed on it, looking for trace evidence of blood or any hair or fibers that belonged to Miss Hall.
No evidence is found inside Randall's vehicle, and when he is called in for questioning, the exact nature of his relationship with Brandy is difficult to define.
Mr. Richmond characterized their relationship as an emotional affair, that he never crossed any boundaries.
But others close to Brandy have a different perspective.
Brandy did confide in me about having an affair. I don't think it was a planned thing. I think it kind of just happened.
Some say that for Randall's wife, the rumors were real enough to provoke a very public reaction, 7 months before Brandy went missing.
Several witnesses told investigators that they saw Anne Marie Richmond and Brandy Hall have a verbal confrontation over Brandy's relationship with Randall Richmond. It came up later in the investigation that several people, including Jeff Hall, saw threatening text messages back and forth between Brandy Hall and Anne Marie Richmond, where they were sending threats back and forth to each other.
But Palm Bay police have trouble substantiating any of this information.
Anne Marie Richmond claimed to not know anything of what was going on, and Mr. Richmond consistently claimed that he did not know what happened to Brandy Hall other than that last phone call where she said she was going to disappear.
Neither Randall nor his wife has ever been named a suspect or person of interest in the case. While rumors still circulate, Brandy's loved ones remain focused on what's most important, finding Brandy.
I just don't want people to lose sight of the kind of person that she was, because a lot of us make horrible and wrong decisions and choices in our life, but it doesn't necessarily make us a bad person. And she was a good person, and I don't believe she ever meant to hurt anybody. She was just trying to live her life and love her kids and have her family, you know, and I miss her a lot.
Years have passed since Brandy's 2006 disappearance. With no answers and no new leads, Brandy's family and friends struggle to keep on without her.
I saw Brandy every day. We were a close family, and it's so hard that she's not here. It's like somebody wake me up out of this horrible, horrible nightmare.
I was close with her. She was like a daughter. She did so much for this department, and it hurts that she's gone now. Her picture's all over this fire station. This has gone on too long. It's impacted too many people here.
When we go back in Bull Creek, it's hard on me because I think of Brandy all the time. I think she talks to me through the trees. I don't know why, but I'll find myself staring at a tree and it dances, and there's not a tree around it that's doing the same thing.
Although Brandy's husband Jeff is out of jail and reunited with his family, his life will never be the same. He misses his wife, and so do their children.
I mean, if they would find her alive or find her dead, I think it would be easier on the kids. Definitely, they think about it every day, I'm sure. You know, because my son even asked me, are we still looking for mom? You still looking for mom? Yes. You cannot pull the wool over kids' eyes, you know, especially when it comes to their mom.
Patty Vaughn disappeared on Wednesday, December 25th, 1996. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Patty Vaughn's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. When a dedicated mother's minivan is found abandoned on the side of the road, panic ensues.
She had been gone for more than 24 hours.
I kept thinking I was gonna look in one of those drainage ditches and Patty was gonna be in there.
Investigators soon find hints of foul play.
There was blood found in the van.
And then, a look into Patty Vaughn's past reveals a complicated love triangle.
They had a huge fight. She got angry and got in her van and left.
Could problems in a relationship have led to murder?
I don't think anybody else has the motive or the opportunity.
You just can't focus on one person. We are going to solve this case.
It is Christmas Eve, 1996, near San Antonio, Texas, where the festive city streets are glowing with holiday cheer. At Lavernia United Methodist Church, 32-year-old mother of three Patty Vaughn performs for an intimate Christmas celebration.
Patty has probably been singing before she talked. She had just a very sweet, soothing voice, almost like a songbird. She really enjoyed it. You know, they just created such great music together.
Patty was very proud of her music group. Singing with them was one of the things in life that gave her peace.
Church was huge in Patty's life. Patty's relationship with God was right up there with her relationship with her children.
While Patty carols on the altar, her husband Jerry Ray Vaughn and their three young children watch from the pews. Although the Vaughn's marriage has been strained lately, they are committed to keeping their relationship amicable.
Patty would never complain. You look at her family, and it was cookies and cream. Everything was perfect.
But once the service ends, Patty and JR, who have been separated for over 2 months, part ways. Patty and the children head over to her aunt's house, where they will meet up with Patty's old flame, a man named Gary, while JR drives back to his apartment in San Antonio.
It was going to be a wonderful Christmas because we were going to have Patty and Gary and the children.
Patty Vaughn and Gary's relationship has a long and complicated history. Patty was 18 years old in 1982 when she met Gary. She fell in love with the young Texan after moving to San Antonio with her family.
They had mad, crazy love for each other back then.
They had quite a serious relationship, and I think had circumstances been different, I think they probably would have stayed together. But A few months after they had been seeing each other, his ex-girlfriend came to him and told him that she was pregnant with his child. And out of a sense of obligation, he broke it off with Patty. Patty was devastated, was totally devastated.
Emotionally scarred from the breakup, Patty kept herself busy. She was waiting tables while attending classes at a community college.
She was working at a little hamburger joint. JR came into the establishment. He was a little bit older than Patty. Then they had known each other for a couple of years and got married.
Patty and J.R. Vaughn were married on May 18, 1985. For 11 and a half years, the couple worked at making a life together. They had a family construction contracting business and 3 children. But despite many solid years together, by the fall of 1996, Patty realized she was unhappy.
She was being torn apart inside and everything was falling apart, but my brother best described it as her being a one-legged duck, smooth and graceful on top, but paddling like hell underneath.
Finally, on Columbus Day weekend 1996, Patty and Jerry Ray decided it was time to separate and reevaluate their marriage. By the end of October, JR had moved out of the family home in Lavernia and into an apartment in San Antonio.
She stayed in the family home. That was a mutual decision between Patty and JR, I think, at the time, for the sake of the children. And I remember when we knew that they really had separated, it was like the weight of the world had been lifted from her shoulders. And she was happy.
And then, just weeks after the separation, Patty confided in her cousin Kathy that she had been communicating again with the man who had captured her heart so many years earlier.
She had told me that Gary had divorced and that she was really excited because they were talking again.
I think it was just part of her remembering who she was, you know, remembering all the good stuff about herself.
When Patty, Gary, and her children arrive at Aunt Jean's house on Christmas Eve, the celebration has already begun. Patty worries how the new man in her life will be received.
Patty felt very guilty because she was still married to JR. And that part of her, that conscience, that moral issue was always there with her. Am I doing the right thing? Am I going to be called a bad mother?
But her family welcomes them both with open arms.
Basically, we all just always told her, you're a good person, you know what's right for your life, so just follow your heart.
As far as Christmas Eve at the house, I mean, it was perfect.
The party comes to an end around midnight. The family wishes each other a Merry Christmas and says their goodbyes.
Patty gave me a big old hug and said, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And that was it. I mean, it was no different than any other night.
But unbeknownst to all, this is the last Christmas they will ever share together. Coming up, an explosive argument on Christmas Day tears a family apart.
She got angry and got in her van and left.
After an 11-year marriage, Patty Vaughn and her husband JR have decided to split up. Although conflicted about her decision to separate, Patty has been seeing an old boyfriend. On Christmas Eve 1996, Patty openly shares her rekindled relationship with her extended family. All goes well. At the end of the night, the family exchanges hugs and wishes each other a Merry Christmas.
We really didn't make any plans for Christmas Day because we knew that her plans were to have JR over.
It's Christmas morning, and Patty's husband JR arrives at the family home around 8 o'clock. Despite their recent difficulties, Patty and JR have agreed that it's best to spend Christmas Day together as a family for the sake of their children.
He was to arrive early in the morning, do the Santa Claus thing with the children, and then they were having dinner with the Vaughn family at their home later in the afternoon.
If all goes well, Patty and her boyfriend Gary will spend time together Christmas night, after the Vaughn clan leaves to go home. Her aunt will take care of her children.
She had made plans later to go to a movie, and we were supposed to babysit the children.
But Christmas Day turns to night, and Patty never shows up to drop off the kids as planned, nor does she call to cancel.
Wasn't surprised that I didn't hear from her and just figured with everything going on and with all of her in-laws coming over, I just figured maybe everything was going great and they were playing with the kids and having a nice dinner.
We really didn't panic a lot until my daughter got the phone call the next day.
The day after Christmas, Patty's cousin Kathy and her mother are at home when the phone rings. It's a call that will change their family's lives forever.
JR called me on the evening of the 26th. When I answered the phone, he immediately asked me what time it was, then asked me if I'd seen Patty.
JR tells her no one has heard from Patty for over 24 hours.
He said that she had been gone since the previous day, that they had had a huge fight, that they had been fighting off and on all day Christmas Day, and that she got angry and got in her van and left. She had been gone for more than 24 hours, and we were just now finding out about it.
From what JR tells Kathy, he was not initially worried because he thought Patty had been with Gary. But then, JR breaks bewildering news to Kathy. He tells her Patty's minivan was found abandoned earlier that day, 17 miles from their home. The blue-gray Dodge Caravan was left on the side of the road with a flat tire. Patty's boss was heading back to work after lunch when he noticed the minivan sitting idly on the shoulder. He recognized the vehicle as Patty's and expected to find her at the office just 2 miles down the country road. But Patty wasn't there.
Nobody there had seen her. It was one of her bosses who had called JR and said, hey, Patty's van's sitting on the side of the road with a flat tire, and Patty didn't show up for work. They were concerned too, very concerned, because that was not like Patty to not come to work and not call.
He notified Patty's husband, Jerry Vaughn, who was, I guess, willing to meet him halfway to give him a set of keys to the van.
Patty's husband told her boss over the phone that he didn't have time to drive to where the minivan was found. He was on his way to file for divorce. His plan was to shock Patty into abandoning her relationship with Gary by presenting her with divorce papers. On his way to begin the proceedings, JR met Patty's boss to hand over the keys so the minivan could be moved.
Her employer just changed a flat tire, took it to the shop, and it was later found out that, nobody knew where Patty was.
Later that day, when Patty's cousin Kathy gets off the phone with JR, she shares the baffling news of Patty's departure with her mother. Right away, they are extremely concerned and start making frantic phone calls to track down Gary, the man Patty has been seeing.
He had not seen Patty since Christmas Eve night at our house. He was totally in a state of shock and immediately came to our house to offer to help in any way he could.
Whether Gary is being truthful or not, she is still missing.
There was obviously something wrong. Patty was missing.
Kathy calls the Bexar County Sheriff's Office to file a missing persons report. The family fears Patty might have been abducted after asking the wrong person for help on the side of the road. But since she has not yet been missing for 72 hours, there is not much police can do.
She hadn't been missing long enough. Her being over the age of 18, she can come and go as she pleases.
After several calls, police finally agreed to take a missing persons report over the phone. Then, feeling helpless, Kathy and a friend head out into the dark of night to the place on the side of the road where Patty's van was left with a flat tire.
Patty would have fought like heck if somebody had grabbed her, so there's got to be a shirt sleeve or a shoe or something somewhere, and so we just walked with the flashlight out there looking. Honestly, I kept thinking I was gonna look in one of those drainage ditches and Patty was gonna be in there. You know, maybe beat up, raped, I don't know, but she was gonna be in there because it doesn't happen to your family.
Coming up, the search for Patty dramatically changes course after a startling discovery.
Somebody intentionally let the air out of that tire.
24 hours after Patty Vaughn's family sees her alive and well at a get-together on Christmas Eve, the 32-year-old mother is nowhere to be found. Jerry Ray Vaughn, Patty's estranged husband, was the last known person to see her on Christmas Day. He says she stormed out of the house after a volatile day of arguing. But Patty's extended family senses something is deeply wrong. They don't believe she would have left her 3 young children and not returned home.
These 3 children are her life, and she's gonna get mad enough to walk out and leave them? Not in a million years.
Jean, Patty's aunt, starts to make calls to see if anyone has heard from Patty since Christmas. She begins with Patty's immediate family living in Georgia and finds that Patty's youngest sister did indeed talk to her on Christmas Day.
I called her Christmas. It was probably about 10:30 Texas time.
JR answered the phone. Jeannie wished him a Merry Christmas, told him she loved him, and asked to speak to her sister, Patty.
He put Patty on the phone, and I could tell she had been crying, and she tried to tell me she had a cold. But I knew, I knew the difference, so I let it go.
Jeannie had formerly lived with Patty and JR and was very close to her sister's family.
He was a really nice guy. We had a good relationship. He was more of a brother than an in-law. I asked him to give me away at my wedding when I grew up, so.
But Jeannie was aware that Patty and JR's separation had not been easy. So when she heard the heaviness in her sister's voice on Christmas Day, she couldn't help but worry.
She assured me once again before we got off the phone that everything was fine, and that was the last time I talked to her.
That call only makes her family more concerned and desperate for answers. 2 days later, Patty's cousins, Barb and Kathy, head out to Quinney Electric, Patty's employer, where the minivan has been sitting since the previous day. But when the sisters inspect what is believed to be a blown-out tire, what they find changes the game in the search for their cousin.
Had Patty been driving to work down that road and gotten a blowout or a flat tire, there would have been some damage to the tire and to the rim. It was perfect. It looks like it went flat right where it sat.
To test their theory, the tire is reinflated. As they suspect, it holds air. Patty's cousin Kathy once again calls the police, who now agree to open an investigation before the 72-hour period passes. Investigator Adrian Ramirez, at the time an evidence technician, is one of the first to examine the car back in 1996.
The tire didn't appear to have any damage to it. It didn't have any kind of tearing on it. It didn't have any kind of markings on it, which led us to believe somebody intentionally let the air out of that tire.
It does not take long for the CSI team to conclude what they have on their hands is much more than a woman who voluntarily left her family.
The van was extremely clean, which caught our attention.
Considering the vehicle carts around 3 children under the age of 10, this cleanliness is a red flag.
The interior of the van appeared to be washed out, some type of detergent or water. There was water in the actual van itself. It was a colored, stained water. Samples were taken from all through the van.
Police suspect the muddied water in the van is tainted with blood, but they can't be sure. They submit samples for testing to the Bexar County Forensics Lab. Next, the investigators dust for fingerprints. The vehicle seems to have been wiped clean, but they eventually recover a single set of prints that are not Patty's. After checking local and national records, investigators cannot determine whom they belong to. While the Bexar County Police Department is involved in processing Patty's van, Jean, Kathy, and Barb are working non-stop to mobilize a search team. Patty's husband stays home to mind the children.
The first day, we had, I think, over 500 volunteers just through the local media.
By the end of the day on Friday, December 27th, hundreds of people have gathered at the location where Patty's van was found. Barb and her mother Jean head over to Patty's house to obtain scent articles for the search dogs. While there, Patty's cousin Barb has a brief encounter with Patty's 9-year-old daughter.
She ran out and hugged me, and she was very upset, and I said, "It's okay, we'll find your mommy."
As the clock ticks, Barb and Jean know the chances of Patty being found alive are fading fast. They head back to the search headquarters to deliver the scent articles.
They had some dogs that had a scent towards a pond in the area where her van was found.
The handler follows her dog Vip to a small stock pond that's 50 feet wide and 3 feet deep. It's a place well hidden off the country road. Could someone have disposed of Patty's body here after dumping her car? The search begins at the pond.
They had the Bexar County Dive Team and other assistance from different organizations. Any search was conducted in the pond area.
We did drag the pond. There was nothing there.
Although the pond yields no new evidence, the search teams expand their hunt to the surrounding areas. No stone is left unturned.
Complete strangers came to help our family. I can't tell you how many trash cans we jumped in. Dump sites, quarries, places that you just would never think you would have to look for somebody that you care about.
On Sunday, December 29th, the official search for the missing mother of 3 ends. Coming up, a routine search of the Vaughn residence reveals a harrowing clue.
It was hard not to think that something horrible had happened in that house.
When Patty Vaughn's minivan is found with a flat tire on the side of the road, almost 24 hours after she is last seen, her family believes Patty might have been abducted. But it quickly becomes clear that the air was deliberately let out of the tire, and there appear to be traces of blood in the van. A 3-day search for the missing woman has turned up nothing. Investigators move quickly to question anyone in Patty's life who could have had motive to make her disappear.
In a case like this, you have to go in with an open mind. We strongly believe this was somebody that Patty knew, that Patty is very close to.
Investigators know that there are 2 very important men in Patty's life. JR, her estranged husband, and Gary, Patty's former boyfriend, who is now back in her life. They start by questioning Gary. Police learn that Gary drove by Patty's house the day she went missing, when they weren't supposed to see each other until later that night.
He and his sister had been out driving for whatever reason, and he asked his sister if they could drive by Patty's house.
According to Patty's aunt, Gary says that he saw Patty's minivan and JR's truck in the driveway. The kids were out playing in the front yard. Is it possible that seeing the Vaughn family together on Christmas made him jealous? Patty's family says there is no way that Gary could be involved in Patty's disappearance.
We heard rumors that Patty had decided to reconcile with JR, and Gary couldn't stand that, so he had decided to do away with her. Just crazy scenarios. The fact that he was with his entire family all day Christmas and into the night, way after the hour that Patty supposedly left in her van, kind of blows a hole in that theory.
The first person that helped us look for her was Gary. He volunteered to the police, please give me a lie detector test. He was with us on almost every search. He helped pass out flyers. He was a big part of that.
Gary denies having a part in Patty's disappearance. He passes a polygraph and gives no reason for police to believe he is a suspect. But because of the nature of his relationship to Patty, it is impossible to rule him out entirely. His eventual death in a tragic car accident will keep police wondering.
Gary, like anybody else, has always been considered a person of interest.
As investigators dig deeper into Gary and Patty's relationship, they look into an incident that happened just 2 weeks before Patty went missing. It makes them concerned that more people, other than just JR or Gary, may have been upset with Patty Vaughn at the time of her disappearance.
A member of their church out in Lavernia had seen Patty having lunch with Gary at a Dairy Queen, a very romantic place to have lunch, and went back and reported to the minister at the church that Patty was a married woman and he didn't think it was proper for a married woman to be having lunch with a man other than her husband.
Later that week, while rehearsing at church with her Christian folk singing group, Patty is publicly scorned because of her alleged infidelities.
The minister of the church called Patty in at choir practice one evening in front of all of the members and told her that she did not deserve to represent the church as a member of the singing group. That started a snowball in the community.
She had nothing to hide. She didn't think she did, until the church ostracized her like they did.
There was a lot of division from what we understand. Some opinion was that this friend that she had was not a good idea because she was still technically married. There's other opinion to where, well, they were already in the midst of a separation and going to get divorced. There were a lot of personal attacks on Patty, and that's something she had to struggle with.
While hundreds of volunteers continue to flock to the fields searching for any sign of Patty, investigators are honing in on the Vaughn residence, the last place Patty was seen alive. The Bexar County Sheriff's Department Crime Scene Unit pays Jerry Ray Vaughn a visit later that day.
Jerry gave us consent to process the residence. Everything seemed to be normal. We then examined different areas of the interior of the residence.
The evidence technicians make their way through the Vaughn's home to search Patty and JR's bedroom. According to JR, Patty spent a good portion of the afternoon on Christmas Day in the bedroom, upset. The emotional upheaval started early on Christmas morning, soon after JR arrived. He says the fighting between him and his wife began over Patty's new relationship with her old boyfriend and how it was spilling over into their family life.
He felt that it was wrong that his children be subjected to that, and they weren't even divorced.
As the fighting between JR and Patty escalated, it became increasingly clear that hosting the Vaughn family for Christmas was not the best idea. When JR's sister Marilyn and her son showed up for dinner, JR told them Patty wasn't feeling well and asked them to take the children over to his younger sister's house for Christmas dinner. When the children left with their aunt, Patty and JR remained in the house alone.
We believe that Patty and Jerry Vaughn needed some time to talk, and they're probably going to work on some things.
But according to JR, this was when the arguing turned into an all-out war, culminating with divorce threats.
He had threatened her that with what he had on her, not only could he take back control of his house, he could take his children too, and she would never see them again.
According to JR, his goal was to show Patty he meant business and that it was high time to stop exhibiting inappropriate behavior around their children.
Supposedly, she grabbed her purse and her keys and left. And nobody has seen any of those items.
There are no witnesses that have come forward that can tell us they saw Patty leave that residence.
JR believes Patty became the victim of foul play after she left the house. 4 days later, the CSI team enters Patty and JR's bedroom, one of the last places Patty was seen before she vanished. They notice several stained indentations in the linoleum floor and begin their testing with luminol, a chemical used to indicate the possible presence of blood. Relegated to a neighbor's yard, Patty's anxious family members look on from afar.
We knew that they were going to be doing the luminol test, and we wanted to be right there in case they found anything.
But according to police, JR's sister Marilyn is inside the house and interrupts the investigation with a barrage of questions.
At that particular time, when we first processed the residence, there was some type of interference with the sister. And she's to be protective of her brother.
While one officer leads Marilyn out of the bedroom, the other continues the luminol testing. What he finds could be proof that something violent happened there. There are visible positive results in the master bedroom, closet, and bathroom. But knowing that luminol also detects cleaning detergents, it is impossible to say if the reaction is from blood or bleach.
Luminol not only reacts to blood, it also reacts to copper and other chemicals, such as bleach. So it is strictly a tool to help you search for any kind of biological evidence.
Then, according to police, further disruptions from JR's sister while examining the positive results in the bathroom caused them to leave. The next day, when the search continues, the evidence technicians return to the areas where the luminol test was positive. They then follow a trail on the bedroom floor to uncover a few drops of blood. A bucket and mop in the garage also test positive under luminol.
Some blood evidence had been found behind the baseboard of the master bedroom. It was hard not to think that something horrible had happened in that house.
But investigators cannot be sure. They must now prove the blood found in the van and in the house is in fact Patty's blood. And if it is, with only a small amount of blood discovered, it will be hard to prove a crime was committed in the Vaughn's home.
What makes it tough here also is that unless there is an abundance amount of blood at a crime scene, it doesn't give you the amount you need to consider a person deceased.
Patty's family isn't as cautious in its assessment of the evidence against JR.
The house was never cordoned off as a crime scene. When they found the blood in the home and the blood in the van and she was missing, they allowed JR and his sister Marilyn to be in the home while they searched. And there's something not right there.
Coming up, suspicions arise when tips flood in about one of JR's construction sites.
Some workers were pouring concrete and they wanted us to go away.
Young Texan mother Patty Vaughn has been missing 4 days, and police have probable cause to call it homicide. Blood found both in her minivan and behind a baseboard in her bedroom is a strong indicator to investigators that Patty has met a violent end. But just as the investigation into Patty Vaughn's disappearance seems to be heating up, there is a jurisdictional issue. Although the abandoned van was in Bexar County, the Vaughn house is not. Just weeks after Patty goes missing, former detective for the Wilson County Sheriff's Department, John Martinez, is handed the case. After reviewing the details of the investigation, he asks to speak to J.R. Vaughn.
The interview took approximately 4 hours. It was a roller coaster interview, a lot of discrepancies, a lot of voids. At the time of the interview, I was not convinced with any of Mr. Vaughn's answers.
It is becoming apparent to JR that people are beginning to point the finger at him as the reason why his wife is missing. He says he has no clue why there was blood in the van, since whatever happened to Patty transpired after she left the house Christmas night. As for the blood in the bedroom, he insists he has nothing to hide and has no idea where it came from.
Shortly thereafter, he retained an attorney and was advised never to give another statement. A polygraph was offered to him, which he declined.
Knowing he might be the only surviving parent, JR says he feels he must protect himself at all costs.
I would say that Jerry Vaughn is one of our main persons of interest. It would have to take a serious amount of explaining as to questions we have regarding the incident on Christmas Day.
JR hasn't had to explain anything. JR's made all the rules.
There has been no explanation as to why the van was cleaned out and or the presence of blood at both scenes.
Although most people connected to the case believe that tests will soon verify the presence of Patty's blood, results are still pending. In the meantime, without any hard evidence against JR, police are unable to name him a suspect. But as the investigation continues, they receive information that makes them suspicious. 2 days before Patty goes missing, he makes plans to vacate his apartment. In a letter dated December 23rd, JR asks his landlord to break his lease. Although he tells police it was because the area felt unsafe, the timing of the letter makes them question his actions.
He moved back in the day Patty disappeared, and 3 days later her voice was changed on the voicemail, and his clothes were in the closet.
JR says his move back into the family home on December 25th was not planned. The heated fight between him and his wife pushed him to the limit. He told her to get out.
Supposedly, after she stormed out after a heated argument on Christmas night, he called a locksmith to change the locks.
JR was standing his ground, and he was going to take back what was his, which was his home and his children.
More than 3 months after Patty disappeared, police finally have the test results confirming that the blood found both in the van and the house has indeed been identified as Patty Vaughn's. But that is still not enough for an indictment.
There's not a body. There's no evidence that connects the two. And it's very hard to present that to a grand jury and try to make a case.
Nonetheless, JR's increasingly uncooperative behavior keeps family and investigators acutely alert.
We were not allowed back in the home, and we were allowed to see the children again.
The children were not allowed to be questioned, whether it be at the school or whether it be at the church. Their father made it a point when they attended Bible studies that he was there. As an investigator, it sends a red flag.
But JR says that police had not asked to question the children, and he has cut off contact with certain members of Patty's family because he is aware they think he might have harmed Patty.
He would not leave the house. He would not help us on the searches.
JR was getting members from the search parties to call him and give him updates, where you're searching, how long you're going to be there, where you searching tomorrow.
You would think that a person would be more involved in a search. However, everybody reacts different. Some will help, some will decide to stay away and let the authorities do it.
According to JR, he was advised by a police officer to stay away from the searches. If anything tied to Patty was found, he would not want his DNA anywhere near the crime scene. As the investigation continues, police must keep an open mind. They continue to question people Patty knew and chase down every possible lead, which brings them back to the Vaughn's property.
One of the leads that we received was that the body could be in a septic tank on the property. We obtained a search warrant, evidentiary search warrant for the property. And after searching, it was inconclusive. We searched and talked to neighbors and so forth. No one heard anything, no one saw anything.
But then, weeks after Patty disappears, one tip stands out among the rest. A call has come in referencing an elementary school that was being built around the Christmas holidays, 45 miles from Lavernia in Pleasanton. The supervisor of the construction site was J.R. Vaughn.
Our office received information that Mr. Vaughn was a contractor, and they felt suspicious of some work that was being conducted right around the same time frame that this missing persons report came through.
We had found out where JR's job site was, and when we got there, there were some workers that were hired by JR that were pouring concrete, and they wanted us to go away.
We've talked to a couple of employees who had said that JR had done something that was totally out of character for him, and said that he would oversee the concrete trucks in certain areas pouring the concrete.
The information was that Ms. Vaughn might be in a cement slab. because they found it odd that they were pouring cement at a certain time frame, certain date.
JR denies these claims and says the pour dates had been scheduled well in advance and executed as planned. Close to 4 months after Patty's family finds out about the school construction site, investigators bring in the Texas Rangers and a team from Dallas to use ground-penetrating radar. They check for any anomalies in the concrete, and they find them.
We bored some holes in cement. Had a cadaver dog out there, and at the time, the cadaver dog did not alert on any suspicious odors. So that kind of turned out at the time as an inconclusive search.
Patty's family is not convinced the search was done thoroughly. They believe there's a good chance Patty's body could still be there.
You're not going to destroy a multi-million-dollar project that the county and the citizens paid for, no matter how many bodies might be buried here.
Following the Pleasanton school search, the case of the missing mother goes cold. Eight years after Patty goes missing, JR files for her death certificate. JR says he had Patty pronounced deceased because by that time he was legally permitted to do so. But when Patty's family finds out, they are devastated and file a wrongful death suit against JR. At stake is the payout from Patty's life insurance policy. On December 8th, 2005, the case is resolved. The life insurance money goes to Patty's children, and all claims against JR are denied. This defeat does not stop Patty's family from looking for her. They have continued to follow every lead on their own dime.
Our last big search, we dug up a huge portion of a field that's soon to be used as a cemetery plot. The tip was the land had been leased by the construction company that JR was working for to dump excess like concrete and trash.
Sooner or later, we'll find her, we'll find out what happened to her. We won't stop until we do, though.
Detective Adrian Ramirez and his partner have the same zeal for solving Patty's disappearance. Now cold case homicide detectives, the duo inherited the case in 2007 when it was returned to Bexar County from Wilson County.
We are going to keep working. We will continue for the sake of Patty's children and her loved ones. We are going to solve this case.
Meanwhile, J.R. Vaughn says that by concentrating on him as Patty's killer, the investigation into his wife's disappearance has taken a wrong turn from the beginning, allowing the real killer to have gotten away with murder. Despite the rift that Patty's disappearance has caused, JR and her family can agree on one truth. They all deserve to know why Patty was taken from them that fateful Christmas day.
We may never have the answers, but it won't be for lack of us trying. Because Patty deserved so much more. She was such a good person, such a good mother, such a good niece, cousin, sister, friend.
Patty was the one that kept everybody together. She just wanted to make everybody happy, you know? She really did.
She had so much light in her, and she had so much to give. And I just can't imagine what her life would have become had she been allowed to live it.
Tim Carney disappeared on September 28, 2004. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Tim Carney's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. 25-year-old Tim Carney belongs to a religious group that worries his family.
I think they were telling him, we're your family now. You don't need your family. We're your family.
Suddenly, he vanishes on his way to morning prayers, leaving his family searching for clues.
I always wonder if He was trying to warn us about something that was happening.
The Carneys suspect Tim's religious devotion may have played a role in his disappearance.
He would never go this long without calling somebody in our family and saying, I'm okay.
Just when investigators believe Tim may be out of reach, witnesses think they have spotted him.
He seemed very tense and very nervous.
Will detectives be able to find him before it's too late?
If he had to live on the streets, I just don't see him surviving.
25-year-old Tim Carney has devoted himself to his religious life. For the past 5 years, he's been a member of a small church in New Jersey. Every morning, Tim has the same routine. Before starting his day at the New Jersey Unemployment Office, he wakes up at 5 a.m. and goes to the church's 7 a.m. prayer meeting.
He came home one weekend and said that he had joined a church, and we were glad. We grew up in church, so we thought that was good.
We stressed the fact that religion was an important part of our lives. We believe in God. We went to church every Sunday. I taught Sunday school. Tim was in my class as well as his sisters. So we were happy that religion was still a part of his life.
Tim joins the Gospel Outreach Church, led by Pastor Jim Lethbridge, and soon has a new circle of friends. His sister Megan would come to question the group's appeal.
I think Tim joined Gospel Outreach because they posed themselves as a Christian study group, people that were on his wavelength, you know, really focused on academics.
He didn't say too much, just that he was going to church and we were just happy to hear that, so we left it at that.
Tim surrounds himself primarily with Gospel Outreach members and has been living with fellow congregants since college.
He felt very comfortable there. He felt wanted and loved, and he felt at home.
While Tim had excelled in academics growing up, his bookish nature made it difficult for him to make friends when he was younger.
He was the smart kid, so people shy away from smart kids. He would be talking to adults at 12 years old because nobody else understood him. He was made fun of a lot. He just wanted to feel like he belonged to something, a group.
It was hard. It was very hard because we know he's got a great sense of humor. He's a great kid. They just got to get to know him.
Tim's passion for books eventually inspired him to write his own stories.
Tim started writing at a young age. Because he loved reading so much, it was just natural for him to just try to create his own adventures in writing.
Tim had particularly enjoyed mysteries.
His favorite was Edgar Allan Poe, and he liked to write with the surprise endings. In his briefcase, he had writing. He was writing a book.
Tim was pretty secretive with his writings. Once he felt like something was perfect, then he would share it. But before then, he was pretty protective of his writings, and he would keep them in like a briefcase.
Tim could never have known then that his own life would one day become the center of a troubling mystery. On September 28, 2004, an average Tuesday, Tim's day begins as usual. According to his roommate Roy, also a member of Gospel Outreach, Tim wakes at 5 a.m. to go to the 7 a.m. prayer meeting. But on this day, Tim's morning unfolds differently from his normal routine. His fellow church members report that Tim never arrives at morning prayers. Even before his disappearance, Tim's family is uncomfortable with the way Tim makes church activities the central focus of his life.
Whereas before he would come down and join us for church on Sunday as a family, now if he did come down, he had to leave right away to get back to the group. It was more about, you know, I got to get to Bible study, or I have to get to men's group, or I have to get to choir. It was mandatory for him to attend.
Family members worry that Tim's religious commitment is pulling him away from them.
Well, there was a big change in Tim. He didn't come around as often. He was very secretive. He wouldn't communicate with us. And that was tough because before that, we always had a good communication.
It was just really out of character for him, just not like him to miss the family function or to not call, and it was happening more and more frequently. I didn't like what was happening. I didn't like that he couldn't be with us.
Every time he had to go somewhere, he couldn't go by himself. When my sister was in the hospital, he would come down to see her, but he always had somebody else with him. And they made a statement once where it's like, well, we wanted to make sure there was a real Aunt Kathleen.
Phyllis Carney sensed a pressure on Tim to distance himself from his family.
I think they don't want you to talk to anybody else outside the group, because they always said, well, don't tell anybody about us because they won't understand.
Rick Ross is consulted nationwide by families and law enforcement. He has made a career studying religious groups, including Gospel Outreach and Pastor Lethbridge.
In my experience, the families that have loved ones in Gospel Outreach have very limited communication. When a group isolates members, they do that in order to create a kind of bubble. If they can control everything that goes into the mind, they can control the mind itself. So by isolating people from family members, they create an environment in where what the group wants them to think and feel is constantly being reinforced.
I think they were telling them, we're your family now. You don't need your family. We're your family. Well, churches bring people together. They don't tear them apart.
Tim's family notices that his devotion to gospel outreach and to the teachings of Pastor Lethbridge seems to have a physical effect.
He changed his appearance. He always had short hair in college. And one summer when he came home, he had long hair and he had a ponytail. We didn't think much of it. Actually, it looked good on him. But then one Sunday, we went and sat in on a church service. And lo and behold, the minister happens to have long hair and a ponytail. And so do several other male members of the group.
But then one day he came home with short hair and surprised me. Then we saw Lethbridge right after that, and Lethbridge had cut his hair.
Gradually, Tim's parents begin to see gospel outreach as very different from the kind of church in which the Carneys had grown up.
We had gotten a phone call from parents who have a son in the group also. And they had some concerns about the church and they wanted to talk to us about it. That's when everything kind of fell into place. Things that we joked about, we thought was kind of funny, but once we started talking to these people, it wasn't funny anymore. It was serious. We know he's a smart boy. We didn't think he'd be sucked into a group that would influence him like they did.
In 2003, the year before Tim disappears, his ties to gospel outreach grow even stronger when he begins seeing a woman who is also a member of the congregation.
He came home and said he was courting. That's the word they used. I said, well, what kind of word is courting? I wasn't, they don't use that word anymore. That's such an old-fashioned term that was a little strange too, I thought.
Tim's family was bewildered by his dating rituals.
They could sit next to one another, but they couldn't hold hands. If they wanted to hold hands, they had to hold a fork. She held the fork halfway, and then he would grab a fork the rest of the way. And that was their way of being with one another. They couldn't touch.
At Tim's college graduation party, his sister Megan noticed that some members of gospel outreach seemed to have more conservative customs than other couples she knew.
There was 3 people watching TV, and the couple that was supposed to have been together weren't sitting next to each other on the couch. There was somebody in between them. It seemed like none of the girls could ever be alone with their significant others. There always had to be like a person watching to make sure that they were following the rules.
When his parents bring up what they perceive as the church's strict doctrines, it becomes a source of tension in the family.
We try to avoid talking about the church because then that only goes into an argument and then we start yelling at one another.
He was constantly trying to prove to us that it was a legitimate group or it was a good group or that there was nothing wrong, that everything was fine and happy. I think part of that is that he wouldn't want my mother or my father to worry. But part of that is almost as if maybe deep down he knew that some of the things that they were doing weren't how we were raised or how we grew up.
All the Carneys knew of gospel outreach was what they heard from Tim, that it was a Christian fellowship devoted to studying the Bible. Despite his family's concerns about the strict lifestyle that gospel outreach seems to require, Phyllis Carney sees Tim's relationship having a positive impact on her son.
Oh, he seemed very happy. He really did. He seemed very, very happy with her. I mean, he brought her to the family Christmas party. If he's happy, then you're happy.
But about 7 months after Tim's relationship begins, the Carneys learned some disappointing news.
One day he just came and said they had broken up, and that's all he would say. Looked like he was upset about it, but he wouldn't talk about it. And that was it.
On Saturday, September 25th, 2004, 5 months after Tim's breakup, he and his sisters Erin and Megan have dinner at their childhood home to celebrate their parents' anniversary.
We just had a nice night, family-wise. We didn't talk about the church at all.
He didn't leave early. He stayed, and he had dinner with us, and we watched a movie after, and it was like the old Tim. Being in the moment, just being with the family, just having a good time.
The last thing he did was hug me and say, "Mom, I love you." And then he left and went home.
The next day, Sunday, Megan gets together with Tim, but their time is cut short.
We were supposed to go to lunch, but I canceled because I wasn't in a good mood.
Megan sees a potential clue she may have missed, looking back on that day.
He was trying hard to convince me to go out to eat, trying to, get together, and I didn't. I didn't go. It feels awful. I hate so much that I wasn't in a good mood. He wasn't always so insistent to meet for lunch. Like, if we get together, we get together. If we don't, we'll just reschedule, no big deal. But I always wonder if he was trying to tell me something, or maybe warn us about something that was happening that we didn't know about. I always wonder about that.
Tim's request to meet for lunch would echo in Megan's mind. Just 2 days later, on Tuesday, September 28th, Tim never shows up at morning prayers and disappears. Coming up, when police find a clue, Tim's family fears the worst.
We thought foul play.
On Saturday, September 25th, 3 days before he disappears, 25-year-old Tim Carney spends the evening with his family at his parents' home in Edison, New Jersey. As he leaves, Tim hugs his mom goodbye and says he'll see her next week. The following Tuesday, September 28th, Tim gets up at 5 a.m. as usual to go to the Gospel Outreach 7 a.m. morning prayers. But Tim never appears. By 9 a.m., when Tim doesn't show up at the unemployment office where he works as a claims examiner, his coworkers assume Tim is just late. According to his colleagues, this had become common, especially since his breakup. Then, just after 9 a.m., Tim calls his supervisor to say he'll be late. But by 10 a.m., Tim hasn't arrived. Calls to his home and cell phones only reach his voicemail. The next day, the Carneys get a call every parent dreads.
His roommate Roy called and wanted to know if Tim was at our house because he didn't come home that night. Well, no, he's not here.
We called his cell phone and it just rang. No one picked up.
Alarmed, Phyllis and Ed Carney file a missing persons report with the police in Butler, New Jersey, where Tim lives. When detectives search his home, they find no indication that Tim was leaving for longer than just a normal workday. Detective Colleen Pascal is on the team investigating Tim's case.
Nothing was taken out of his home of importance. If he again intended to go away for long, he did not take any of his belongings. His room was intact, his clothes were still there.
Police discover Tim took something with him that at the time seemed normal for him to bring to work, along with his wallet, keys, and cell phone.
We understand that he took the silver briefcase. It's believed that there were writings in that briefcase, which is something that he always carries.
According to investigators, after Tim calls his supervisor around 9 that morning, all outbound activity from his cell phone stops. On Wednesday, September 29th, the day after Tim vanishes, a clue appears.
We received information that somebody had found a wallet.
A patron at the Lyndhurst Diner spots Tim's wallet in the eatery's parking lot. The restaurant is on Route 23, halfway between Tim's apartment and his office. Police learn from the diner's employees that someone matching Tim's description used to eat breakfast there often. Unfortunately, by the time police received the tip about Tim's wallet, it has already been sitting at the diner for several days.
When the wallet was found, they called the phone number that was in his wallet, and his roommate obtained the message, but the message didn't get to the police that day. The police didn't find out about the wallet for quite some time. They could have questioned people a lot sooner instead of quite a few days after.
Police canvass the area around the diner, but find no leads. The wallet still contains Tim's credit cards, leading police to believe this was not a robbery. What's missing also doesn't suggest foul play to Al Schumann, a private investigator hired by the Carney family 6 months after Tim disappears.
Curiously, what was missing from the wallet was nothing except his driver's license and his college identification card.
Since nothing valuable is missing from Tim's wallet, investigators now reason that he may have left it there himself. If so, they need to find out why. Because Tim is an adult, his case centers on one concern. Did he vanish of his own free will, or has he been abducted?
If he chose to be missing on his own, if he just left and did not want to be found, then that in itself is not a crime. He's not a child. He doesn't have to report to his parents where he is.
Three days after Tim vanishes, there's a new development. In Newark, about 35 miles from Tim's home, construction workers discover an abandoned car. When police respond to the scene, they determine that the car belongs to Tim Carney.
When they found this car, we thought foul play. So we were very worried at this point that something terrible had happened to Tim, because they thought, well, maybe they found his body there also. And they said, no, it's just a car. There's no sign of Tim.
Once again, the investigation takes an unfortunate turn. By the time police get the call, it has been almost a week that Tim's car has been at the construction site.
That's where the city of Newark and the city of Elizabeth meet. No one was notified right away about the car because each township felt it was the other township's issue. So it had gone quite a few days without anybody contacting the police regarding it to even notice that, wow, that car belonged to somebody who was declared missing.
The construction site sits on a dirt road off the main highway. It's virtually unreachable by foot.
We didn't know what to think because, like, well, if his car's there, then how did he get out of the spot? It's in a remote spot. It was very far to walk to anywhere.
Investigators find little that indicates what may have happened to him.
It had been raining, and so any clues that there were there, whether it's footprints or whatever, were washed away.
No forensics other than his was retained from the vehicle. There was no sign of struggle. No evidence led any of the investigator officers to believe that there was foul play. It appears that the vehicle was just abandoned.
But detectives do notice one thing notably missing from Tim's car.
He always had this briefcase with him, and they didn't find it.
Since police find no sign of foul play from Tim's wallet or car, and the briefcase that had always been by his side is now missing, detectives believe that Tim may have disappeared intentionally. The discovery of Tim's car gives Tim's loved ones some hope, while also raising some unsettling questions.
Why would he ditch the car? I mean, all kinds of thoughts go through your head. It's like, did he get hurt? Did he walk somewhere? What's the next step? Where do you go? Where should we go look? Any bit of hope, you go running to it. You have hope that you'll find him.
Even though the car itself doesn't provide any leads, investigators do find one important clue. The construction site is right by Newark International Airport. Coming up, Tim's family suspects he may be in trouble.
He would never go this long without calling somebody and saying, I'm okay.
Mysterious signs of 25-year-old Tim Carney have been turning up after he disappears on Saturday, September 28, 2004. Tim's wallet is spotted in a parking lot the next day. Then, police find his car in a remote location about 35 miles from his home. There are no signs of foul play, but they do notice that his briefcase is missing. His briefcase, containing his writing, was the one item Tim was known to always keep with him. Since Tim's car is abandoned near Newark International Airport, police reason he may have boarded a flight. Tim's father, Ed Carney, believes that his son could have headed to Canada.
We thought he might have gone to Canada because he knows people in Canada. He speaks French fluently. He had 7 years of it in school.
At the time of Tim's disappearance, a driver's license was sufficient travel documentation for U.S. citizens to enter Canada. Since Tim's driver's license was missing from his wallet, it's possible he could have crossed the border. Phyllis Carney believes her son may have been looking for a way out of what they saw as the restrictive life he led as a member of the Gospel Outreach Church.
If Tim was going to leave the church, I don't think he would have told us. And so I think he might have thought in order to leave the church, this was the way to do it. The pressure might have just gotten to him.
Initially, Tim's family wants to believe their only son will soon return.
We thought maybe he's got to clear his head and then we'll see him again.
But as the days stretch on, the Carneys also find something troubling in Tim's disappearance. Even if he left of his own free will, they wonder if something may have happened to him.
I just know my brother enough to know that he would never do this to my parents. I mean, we're a pretty close family. He would never go this long without calling somebody in our family and saying, I'm okay.
Ed Carney speaks to Pastor Jim Lethbridge soon after Tim goes missing. Just days later, members of his church and Lethbridge leave for a weekend retreat.
And he told me when they come back, he'll give me the full support of him and the church and looking for Tim. I thought it was odd that they all decided to go away for a weekend and not help me find Tim.
Rick Ross has seen this response to a disappearance with other religious groups.
When there's a group and it's very small, like the Lethbridge group, which has just a handful of members really, and someone important like Tim Carney leaves, who everyone regards